Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to be stopped.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee Cinco de Mayo edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. I hope you all have your Trump Tower taco bowls ready to go and a nice cold margarita ready to chug down as we break down today's news. Got a lot going on today. Great show for everybody today. So thanks very, very, very much for being here. We're going to get to your Rumble rant soon, but Vienticus, no, you did not lose that bet, brother. You did not lose that bet. Tell whoever you made that bet with, you won. They got to pay up. I read your form submission. I'll tell you more about it when I get to your chat, which I will get to in due time. But we got a stacked show today, everybody. A stacked show, a kind of 2-for-1, if you will. The great Kshama Sawant will be joining us about halfway through the program. But of course, right now, we have to introduce our resident Tuesday dissident while Russ is in China, and he will be back next week, by the way. Russ Dobular will return next week, so start counting down the days. But until then, our resident Tuesday dissident is here from Heartlands Media. Kit Cabello. Kit Cabello is back. What's up, Kit?
First of all, happy May 5th to our comrades in Mexico, where we slept Napoleon III's ass out of Mexico. Happy Cinco de Mayo Day. Como es, what we said to the French was, "Como estás, pendejos? ¿Qué pasó, cabrones?"
It's a big day. You know, the first week of May is a big day for a certain type because you got May Day, then you got the Star Wars Day, and then you got Cinco de Mayo.
Yes,
all in one. All in one.
But in the Death Star's defense, we don't really know what happened on Alderaan. I mean, from what I heard from the Imperial sources, that there was an asteroid heading to Alderaan. The Death Star was trying to take it out, and the rebels disabled it. I mean, who are you going to believe?
Who are you going to believe?
Yeah, Palpatine or some rebels? I mean, how can that face lie to you?
Well, you know, it's funny. You know, Russ is the guy who would know more about that than myself. But Russ is in China still. He'll be back next week.
I would love to have a conversation with Russ about Star Wars someday. Just not today.
Well, you guys should do. Isn't Nico House like a Star Wars nerd too? Didn't at some point you pitch a 3-way podcast between you, Russ, and Nico?
Yeah, like a special conversation about Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, listen, if whatever one want to do it, let's launch it out. So Nico House and Russell, I dropped the gauntlet. Pop. A duel has been challenged.
Yes. Everybody is getting their little side projects going. So thanks very much for being here, everybody. We got 534 strong in the YouTube chat to start things off. 190 filing in over on Rumble. Smash that like button here for the early show, please. And thank you very, very much. We got a lot to get to today, a whole lot to get to today. So we're going to get started on a light note, on a light and funny note. This was a segment that we weren't going to cover originally because whatever. I felt like, all right, a testy exchange on a CNN panel between this Gen Z sort of Midas touch pundit to be and Scott Jennings. All right, it was fun, but I felt like in such dire times and such serious times, who cares? But I think there's a broader conversation to be had given the response to this exchange. And we're going to get into that soon. But you may have seen this already. This was a few days ago. Here's Adam Mockler, basically very easily just cutting through a lot of Scott Jennings pro-war propaganda. And Scott Jennings has a little bit of a hissy fit in response.
This is absolutely childish.
We all know that Scott Jennings is more than happy to defend a war with a country that starts with the letters IRA that we are currently failing, that is going to put us trillions and trillions of dollars more in debt. I was only a few years old while you were in the administration defending prior endless wars. Now this war is failing.
8 weeks is endless to you?
Okay, you said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
You have the attention span of a gnat?
Homie, I debated you on TV 4 to 6 weeks ago, and you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not going
Name one political concession. Name one political concession.
Oh!
I'm not going to have this guy.
Get your fucking hand out of my face. Oh, my God. First of all, who was rude to who first here? This guy. Yeah, I mean, he's the one who says, do you have the attention span of a gnat? He's the one who gets insulting. First of all, his hand was not in his face. They're sitting next to each other in frame on a panel. But second of all, he was a dick first.
Defending prior endless wars. Now this war is failing.
8 weeks is endless to you?
Okay, you said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
You have the attention span of a gnat?
Homie, I debated you on TV 4 to 6 weeks.
By the way, some ageism there, playing into the trope that, you know, Gen Zers have ADHD because they're glued to their phones all the time. That you have the attention span of a gnat? What? 8 weeks is too much war for you? Let me ask you something, douchebag. Which generations are fighting these wars? Which generation fought the Iraq War? The millennial generation.
Millennials
It was deployed to the Iraq War. Which generation is fighting this war?
Gen Z.
The Gen Z. The Gen Zers. Oh, you have the attention span of a gnat? What a dick.
You know, the other thing here I want to bring up here, and this hits close to home, is what this kid is saying. I apologize, I shouldn't call him kid. What this young man is saying is that he was a child when the Iraq War was going on.
Right.
And the thing is, we were still hypnotized by the terror and the tragedy of 9/11, which is now abundantly clear. It led us into forever wars. And look at what's happening amongst the veteran communities. I mean, we have a rise in self-deletion. There is a lack of benefits. Families are still suffering from PTSD. You have this terror that's going on. And now look at what this war is. This war is supposed to, end 4 weeks ago? It's going on 8 weeks. Gas is highest right now is $6.30 here in the city of Chicago.
Wow.
That is bad news here. Gas prices are rising up, and this jagoff, Scott Jennings, who I remember in 2024 kept smiling at the camera every time talking about the Biden-Harris administration failures. Well, guess what? The problems that Biden and Harris were going through now have doubled under the Epstein administration. I mean, Trump administration. Yeah. So in other words, this dude cannot act all cock and smuggy to this young man who is speaking out facts. And his finger, it needs to be in your face like this. He's doing this, all right? Yeah. That's different. They're sitting next to each other. Scott, you were calm and composure, but I guess your narrative is falling apart, buddy. So if your narrative is falling apart, don't act like a child and scream at this young man who's speaking out facts.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Name
one political concession. Name one political concession.
What a clown. Howard. What a clown.
Everybody hang tight, okay? No, everybody calm down, okay?
All right, calm down. Okay, so then the debate continued. All right, calm down. Brutally honest, says Adam Mockler has been mopping the floor with Scott Jennings for months, and I'm sure he's hearing it from the rest of the Trump University cult behind the scenes. It was only a matter of time before Jennings lost it because he can't defend anything Trump does, and lately that smug expression he usually wears has turned into a furrowed brow.
Yeah.
Another take, politics, oh my God, says literally not even in his face, but Beta Scott got a Beta Scott. Absolute clown. Scott Jennings goes off on Adam Mockler. Get your fucking hand out of my face. Now, Brandon Carr, who's the chair of the FCC, comes to Scott Jennings' defense and says FCC rules don't prohibit profanity on cable. To which Mockler replies, this is a contender for tweet of the year. It's probably not going to be number one, but this will be a runner-up. So Brendan Carr says FCC rules don't prohibit profanity on cable. Mockler says, can you show a pussy on air?
Yeah.
Did.
Absolutely.
Yo, that was good.
Beautiful, beautiful. But I mean, it's not the right kind of pussy. It's clearly been used up so many times to be a war rag.
Oh, can you show gray-haired pussy on air?
And nothing wrong
You
with
show
gray-haired
silver
pussy,
fox pussy on air.
but the thing is, Scott is not the beautiful silver fox pussy. Okay, so there you go. There's a big difference. Big difference.
No, it's not that dank silver pussy. Jason Cohen says should be the name of this episode. Dank silver pussy.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that was gonna be it, and that's all well and good, and that's a lot of fun. But I was like, all right, I mean, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, do we really have to cover that? Okay, so this is why we're a little late on this, because then apparently this got such attention online that it became this like conversation piece where you really do see, and I'm sorry to all of our boomers in the audience, we love you. We're not all boomers. Hashtag not all boomers.
We love
but you. When young people start challenging the propaganda of the older generations, this is very often how older generations respond. So Geraldo was sitting on that panel, and here is Geraldo smearing the kid, saying he was being a dick. Now, we saw the video. The kid was not being a dick. The kid was making a point, and Jennings said, what, do you have the attention span of a gnat? Right? But here is how Geraldo recounts this.
And it's the same Geraldo Rivera who supposedly found Alphonse Capone's secret booze.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, get out of here, Geraldo. I mean, you're one to talk, buddy. You're one to talk.
Yep.
Chris, the kid was a dick. I mean, he really smart, eloquent, had his argument together, had obviously debated Scott before, and he was really being a dick. I mean, it was shut up.
How? What was he saying?
How?
Notice they can't say how he was being a dick. They can't quote one dickish thing that the kid actually said. All the guy was saying is, hey, I remember when I was a child and you were, saying similar, nonsense to justify the Iraq war. You didn't make any personal attacks, didn't curse at him, nothing.
I mean, it was shut up, go out and get some life experience.
How many different ways?
Shut up and go get some life experience. So he can't cite a single example of how the kid was a dick. He's like, just shut up and go get some life experience. In other words, they're offended that young people aren't buying the bullshit that they bought from their politicians because their generation was too fucking brainwashed and stupid to think for themselves when it mattered. And now they resent the fact that the younger generations can't. He can't cite a single thing. See, this is what pissed me off about this whole thing, is now they're going to go and rewrite it as if this kid was out of line for challenging the most obvious propaganda we've seen in my life. This is the most obvious propaganda I've seen, even more than the Iraq war.
I would go on to say that, I think corporate media and the political ruling class, for a long time, at least before the internet came to fruition, thought they had the narrative. But the thing is, there is a growing shift in regards to what people are seeing, because boomers and Gen Xers, and now it's millennials who are older now, we have seen firsthand the lies, and we are all speaking to each other. And I think I've said this on my show numerous times, that it is our responsibility to tell Gen Z and the next generation, don't let what happened to us happen to you. And this kid is learning. This again, apologies, not kid. This young man has learned from his elders about the lies of the neoliberal corporate establishment system. And the thing is, you have to challenge power. And what Geraldo and Scott Jennings needs to realize is that we have not seen any of the fruits or the great success of corporations running the show or these forever wars. It is abundantly clear that life has gotten worse. People are working 3 jobs just to make ends meet. We don't have clean drinking water. Our money's going to Israel, bailing out banks, bailing out corporations, and for forever war. That's what it's leading to. So the thing is, how's this kid is a dick? How?
What did he say?
What did he say? Cite it. Cite what he said that was wrong. Because I'm not seeing it. And everyone else with a functioning brain, because they're thinking, are realizing too, like, no, this kid's making some sense.
Well, Geraldo didn't say it either. Geraldo said, shut up and go get some life experience like us. They weren't done. They weren't done. Here's Geraldo going on to Piers Morgan, where he reunites with Adam Mockler, saying, don't be a wise ass. You can be very obnoxious in your presentation. Dude, you couldn't find Alphonse Capone's booze
tomb, okay? So how dare you? Alphonse Capone is a saint in my house.
I know. Kid has a soft spot. You know, that's the Chicago blood coming through.
We have a show last week. We have a show today. So life experience, what has it gotten you? I don't know.
All right, Geraldo, your life experience has got you nowhere, says the young dick.
Well, it's got me a career that's lasted 56 years. So
no, we know you have a career that's lasted 56 years, but what he means is what wisdom has it gotten you?
Yeah, nothing.
What wisdom has it gotten you? That's what he's talking about.
Lies.
Yes, we know. Yeah. No, we know that you were able to advance yourself. We understand that. That's not what he's talking about.
Bar and counting, and aside from 10 Emmys and a few other trinkets.
Now you're on the same
I guess.
panels
Adam, listen, don't be a wise ass, okay?
I will.
I said to you in the commercial break that immediately followed your confrontation with Scott that I thought that you made some good points. The problem is that you can be very obnoxious in your presentation.
How was he obnoxious? How was he obnoxious? We just showed you the tape. What did he say that was obnoxious?
What did he do?
Nothing. You could be obnoxious in your presentation. Obnoxious is if a young person challenges an old person on boomer orthodoxy. That is considered obnoxious.
Now, sometimes being obnoxious can lead to a whole career. But I advise you strongly, because you're a smart kid and you obviously prepared, for the debate. Stick to that. Stick to the substance, because I think that you do.
He did stick to the substance. He did. He did. We just showed you the tape. It was Jennings who said, "Well, you got the attention span of a gnat." The kid didn't say anything. He didn't say anything.
What he's saying to this young man is like, shut up and follow orders.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to challenge the narrative. Just follow orders.
Even if the kid did say something dickish, it would be like wrong to tone police him in this way. Because if someone of their generation said something like that, it would just be whatever. All's fair in love and war. We're fighting about politics here. But even if he did say something, you shouldn't tone police. But he didn't even say anything worthy of that kind of tone policing in the first place.
You know what he should have said to Geraldo? Sir, this is a Wendy's, not an Arby's.
Sir, the early bird special ended 1 hour ago. You're going to have to pay for that coffee refill. No free refills after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
So he gets invited back to CNN, and notice who's not there. Who's not on this panel? Little bitch boy Scott Jennings, not on the panel anymore.
Is he a snowflake?
Yeah.
No.
Not there.
Come back, Scott. Come back to me.
So the kid gets invited. So the kid gets invited back to the panel. Says, I got accused of being ungrateful for our troops for simply questioning Trump's Iran war. Watch it backfire instantly. So here he spars with new panelists. Let's take a look.
This generational divide, I think, when it comes to war, has always been a thing in America, but it seems particularly acute right now, Adam.
Yeah, for my entire life, the United States has been at war with some country in the Middle East, and young people have constantly been told that this will make us safer and make us better off. But when we look around at the world today, we are less safe and we are worse off. Millennials grew up watching all these headlines saying that Iraq had been, defeated, that we had taken out Saddam Hussein and we had killed all the bad guys. Well, that turned into a grinding counterinsurgency that cost us $1 trillion, and it was a catastrophe. The same thing happened with Afghanistan. And now Gen Zers are going through the same thing with Iran. We are watching the same people who defended these first two failed wars go on television and defend another failed war. This war is failing. We have not gotten any political concessions. And I'm sorry, I'm not buying this trust the process line. I don't trust the same people who got us into the prior wars, amassed trillions of dollars in debts, and are not putting America first on the global stage.
So putting aside, perhaps.
Okay, so that's his point. No ad hominems, no slights against anybody. Let's see what Noah Rothman. Haven't heard that name in a while. Let's see what he says to that.
For a moment, even the politics of this current moment. I mean, is it fair for young people to have that level of distrust of the people, to Adam's point, who maybe defended the last war and were wrong and are defending this war too?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, honestly, Adam, that's immensely ungrateful to American service personnel and the people who keep us safe every day. After 9/11, it was by no means guaranteed that there would be no mass casualty terrorist attack on American soil in the immediate aftermath of that attack, especially since we had events in Madrid and London, etc.
Fuck off. Hold on. Sorry, I don't mean to swear, man. But I say this as someone who did do 2 tours in Iraq. This was in, I served from 04 to 08. You know, we were given a warning, a heads up that 9/11 was going to happen. And the Bush administration with Dick Cheney did nothing about it to stop it. It could have been stopped. It should have been stopped. And because of this, we went into a false, pointless war where Iraq supposedly had nukes and chemical and bioweapons. And we found none of it. Yep. That was the reason why we were there. I don't care about Operation Iraqi Freedom. I don't care about freeing the Iraqi people. No. So was Saddam Hussein a bad guy? Yeah. But guess what? He didn't have the nukes. He didn't have the bioweapons. He didn't have the chemical weapons. So what was the whole thing about? Oil, 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 oil. And for all we know, and what's being very true for all of us, is that we are seeing firsthand the systematic building of military presence in the Middle East. I mean, Trump himself even said the real truth about why we're in Syria during his first administration. Why we're there. Not for freedom, not for democracy, not for liberation. We're there for the oil. That was the first transparent, true reason why we were there in the Middle East. That's why we're there. Oil.
But also, this kid didn't say anything about the troops. He didn't say, I'm not grateful for it. He didn't say anything. Again, this guy's just not responding to anything the kid actually says.
And after the attack on Iraq and the elimination of Saddam Hussein's regime, we took a terror-supporting enterprise off the map. We don't talk about Iraq anymore as a threat to national security because it isn't. And those who would pretend as though Iran is not a national...
It never was. What kind of argument is that? I mean, you could say the same thing about any country. If we decide we're gonna bomb Uganda, we could say in 10 years, well, you know, Uganda's not a threat now. Yeah, you know, I mean, that's a nonsense argument.
Here's the real truth. When the Soviet Union fell apart, the United States lost its Saturday morning cartoon villain. It lost its reason. Like, again,
right. Well,
that's
exactly.
why there was a rule. There was the good guys and the bad guys and the rivalry. But when the Soviets went under, I mean, yeah, you could say Russia's a rival, but it wasn't like the Soviet Union. And now we have all these tin pot dictators like, well, they're a danger and they're a danger. And are they really? Like, this is like bomb the barrel, like, you know, when the comic writers have to come up with a villain because like the main villain's been arrested or been decapitated or something like that. Soviets are gone. So now we got to say like, oh, well, this person in this desert nation's an enemy, or this person, or this person. None of it makes any sense. How are they a threat? How are they going to take on the global superpower?
Of course, it's nonsense.
Security threat. And are just frankly dismissive of the extent to which American service personnel get up every day to stop these people from executing the attacks on American and their allies that they plan every single day. This is a thorn in our side. It absorbs a lot of American taxpayer dollars, to say nothing of the energy of our service personnel. And I just think it's just ungrateful.
I am so
that that service personnel are not keeping you safe when they are.
No, I feel less safe due to the actions of our leaders. I am incredibly grateful for our
never
service
said
men.
anything.
Your feelings don't make it a fact.
You are doing
feelings. The way you feel doesn't make it a fact.
The way you feel doesn't make it a fact. Listen to this other patronizing piece of shit. Like, they're just bullying this kid because he's young, so they're attaching all these millennial and Gen Z tropes to him. Oh, facts don't care about your feelings. Oh, you can be a dick in your presentation. Oh, you have the attention span of a gnat. See, this is why there's some resentment between generations, because they're not engaging with anything this kid is actually saying.
Mm-hmm.
They're just using the tropes that they know get dopamine hits out of the elderly, skewing people in the audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
About how all of Gen Z's plight is all their fault because they're lazy and they spend too much time on their phone and avocado toast and all that. It's just the laziest, cheapest form of argument. None of these people engage with anything that this kid actually says. None.
Let me finish. He was talking to me.
Hold on a second, Hal. I'll let you respond.
No one was talking to me.
Let him finish his thought.
You are doing the exact same thing that I just laid out in the opening. You are telling young people they shouldn't be asking questions. They shouldn't be questioning the people in power because it's ungrateful.
Questions about the nature of
the Iranian then what was ungrateful about what I said? I said that the leaders are making us less safe, and I can prove that. Right now, Iran has control over the Strait of Hormuz, and that is a weapon they didn't have control of 2 months ago.
Of course they did. They shut down the Strait of Hormuz in the 80s. And we opened it up in the 80s.
Oh, wow. That's an own. How many years ago was that? How much math do we have to do? So I guess everybody knows 47 years. So I guess that would have been, 43, 44 years? I mean, it's just pathetic. It's just absolutely fucking pathetic.
And again, Keen, I'm just going to say this again on your show. I've said this on my show. But can we stop talking about, like, the Shah and the royal family? Because here's the thing. There's a reason why the Ayatollah is there. There's
Of
always
course.
a reason why. Why were people so adamant to remove the Shah? It's because the Shah and his government replaced the national government, who had the audacity to do something so controversial, Keen, that this might be the last time I'm on your show, to use that oil money in Iran to, uplift the people. I mean, that's it. I'm over. I think I should sign myself off because, I mean, come on, a government trying to help out its people.
That's it. You're gonna be canceled for anti-Semitism now.
Yeah, pretty much it. That's it, guys.
It's been nice knowing
the
you. So here is the community theater version of Trump himself. This guy, Lambert. This guy looks like he would play Donald Trump at like a local theater company. Going toe to toe with this Mockler kid again.
Is these gas and oil spikes have completely ruined a lot of companies. I mean, bankruptcies overall. You want to talk about Spirit in particular? Bankruptcies overall among large corporations are at the highest point in 15 years.
Let me finish. We had a spike over 2 months in gas
farm
prices?
bankruptcies are at the highest point. I mean, they've gone up 46% since Donald Trump took office. Is that because of Biden too? Are the farm bankruptcies up 46% because of Biden too?
There was a lot of fertilizer issues around farms, but I'm not going to get into
what?
spikes
Because
in
of
inflation.
tariffs? No,
Yeah,
this is it. We're talking about bankruptcies, and that's exactly what we're talking
under
about.
Biden, and we didn't have bankruptcies.
And the massive inflation under Biden was definitely embedded into the economy, to Noah's point, but it went down. When we're looking at the trends, Donald Trump was handed an economy with 2.9% inflation and spiked it on Liberation
Biden was
Day.
handed an economy with 2.4%.
Yeah, but there's a difference between shooting yourself in the foot like Trump did versus having extrinsic
shoot
factors.
himself in the foot.
Okay, what do you call Liberation Day? What do you call the Iran war? What do you call the fact that he could have just been steady-handed and had a better economy?
I mean, look, you don't understand how inflation operates. Inflation is from printing money, okay? We don't need to get into a whole economic...
Again, you don't understand what you're talking about.
He doesn't. He said a whole bunch of stuff that he doesn't understand.
Well, then this guy just said inflation's about printing money. Inflation is not necessarily about printing money. Yeah, printing too much money can cause inflation, but that is far from the only potential cause of inflation, as a quick cursory Google search will show you, which I'll show you in a second.
Wait, who pays the tariff? Who pays the tariff?
Well, look, we can talk about...
No,
we're not doing it. I do understand tariffs much better than you do.
Who pays
it?
Yeah, I'm older than you.
Actually, it depends. China paid a lot of those tariffs. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, and,
Okay, 'cause
the
it's not a
American
free
people
economy.
paid a
They
lot
can
of those.
step up and
There
pay
are a tax on the American
But
consumer,
also,
and
okay,
you know
well,
that.
then corporate taxes shouldn't be there either.
Seems
if
like he
that's
doesn't
a
know
tax.
about
You can't fill a grocery bag for less than $100. You can't fill a gas tank for less than $60. Like, who do these fucking people think they're kidding? They're making the same mistake that the Biden administration made, which is denying the fact that people are having a hard time paying for shit.
It's worse. It's worse than that, because the reason why Trump got elected, and I said this like in 2020 for election cycle, is that the reason why Trump could probably win against Biden and Kamala is because he's talking about the one thing that matters most to people, and that's money, their wallet. And things have gotten worse. If it's $6.30, and not if, it is $6.30 here in some parts of Chicago. That is ridiculously expensive. And I do know one thing, Chicago being a major metropolitan city, if it's struggling, I dread to think about all the other small towns and cities across this country and how much gas prices are, especially over there on the West Coast where our friend Jimmy Dore lives, man. I'm wondering just how expensive it truly is going to get, because if people can't afford to fill in the gas to go ahead and go to work or get food, I mean, it's going to get ugly here, and it's because of this war that we're fighting on behalf of Israel. And this is what the Epstein administration, Trump administration, is going to have to hold accountable for. These tariffs are ruining us. Everything. Trump has made things progressively worse. Yes, there were problems under Biden and Kamala, but now it's been turned into one big shitstorm, and we're all dealing with the after effects of it. And these leaders don't just realize that people are on the breaking point of snapping.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yes, inflation can occur without printing new money. All you got to do is Google it. While expanding the money supply is a common cause, inflation is frequently driven by supply chain bottlenecks. Supply chain bottlenecks. That's the first of the causes that the friendly Google AI will tell you if you just spend 30 seconds looking it up. What is a supply chain bottleneck? Well, I have one graphic example of a supply chain bottleneck that might be helpful. That's what you call a supply chain bottleneck there. It's called the Strait of Hormuz. And that is what has driven gas prices through the roof in recent days all over the place. Gas prices in New York just shot up. Gas prices surge across New York, highest level in years. California gas prices surge. Gas prices surge in Massachusetts. U.S. gas prices surge 9 cents in just one day to an average of $4.39 a gallon.
Hey, when we promised Doge tariffs and Doge check stimulus, when we promised like tariff stimulus checks or something like this. Like, where's that money at, baby? I want that check, and it better be $50,000. I'm not expect anything less than that.
Yeah,
give me some money.
Yeah, that's inflation. That's inflation for you. So here, this just summarizes what a chicken shit attitude the CNN panelists have, especially Scott Jennings. So this is Kira tweets out a excerpt from, I guess, her Substack article. Mockler is in his 20s and Jennings is nearly 50. He's a man and he's been around long enough to know better than to let another man invade his personal space when aggravated. It's man code 101. I've never been a man, but I've lived with one for 27 years, and I've seen him use that same code on occasion. There are some things a man just does not let happen, and one of those things is letting another man, especially a younger man, break the barrier of your personal safety. What a bitch. I'm talking about Scott Jennings, not this woman. I wouldn't call a woman a bitch necessarily, although the shoe might fit. I don't know. But like the idea that this Mockler kid was a threat to his safety. I mean, you talk about a snowflake. How pathetic. Then she goes on. Charlie Kirk is dead. Corey Comparator is dead. Yaron Lachinsky and Sarah Milgram are dead. Nick Shirley has 24/7 security just to be an independent reporter.
Oh,
Conservative reporters are being assaulted on camera nearly every day. You're comparing this? He was gesticulating. He wasn't even in his personal space. They were sitting next to each other in a TV frame. Like, it's just like these people are just pathetic. They are such little whiny, pathetic pieces of shit. I mean, they are just the worst of the worst.
And again, I remember in 2025 there was talks about Trump dismantling the censorship machine and apparatus that was going around under Biden and Harris. And the thing is, it didn't get dismantled. There are snowflakes on the right. If you believe in free speech, and I do, that means everyone deserves the right to speak, then yes, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But I've never seen so many snowflakes. Like, this makes the snowflakes during the last 8 years look like icebergs in comparison. Because it's this, and again, I have no respect for those people who are cancel, even going after libertarians and conservatives. I don't like that. But if you're now saying, oh, you need to not do this or not do that, shut the hell up. You're supposed to be confrontational.
You're in my space.
You're supposed to fight, but you're in my space. It sounds like, oh, don't go into my safe space now.
Yeah, he wasn't physically fighting. I mean, he was moving his hands when he talks, just the way everybody does, the way most people who are passionate about things do. Just really amazing to see the sort of legacy media holdovers, like Geraldo. And, Piers Morgan wasn't necessarily piling on there, but, the way the Piers Morgan show works is they set up a WWE type cage match. So he was getting in on that action himself. And all the kid was doing was telling, like, the basic truth about the Iran war. And that kid's hardly a radical. That kid's a Midas touch guy. So they're like Dems. He's like a lib, right? But he was too much for them. They couldn't handle him. They could not touch him on the merits of anything he was saying. None of them. Not just Scott Jennings, not Geraldo, not the other guy, the Timu Trump there, whoever he is, Lambert, and then the other guy, Noah Rothman, who I hadn't heard from in probably 20 years.
Correction, not Timu, the Community Theater Trump.
Community Theater Trump, yes. Yes, the county players version of Donald Trump. That's right. All right, let's go to some super chats and some Rumble rants. Mr. Fancy Pants says, hell yeah, brother. Kshama and Kid at the same time. That's a hell of a treat. Well, not technically, but it's doubleheader.
Yeah, there you go.
So, there we go. But Kshama will be on in just under an hour, it looks like. Vienticus Prime, raise your hand if you know that everything's a scam, everything's a lie, everything's hypocrisy, and so you shouldn't comply. Also, I lost another bet. LOL. No, you did not. I got your. I checked the form, yeah. I mean, if you want, we could do that. I think people will be interested to hear about your book. You are a published textbook author, so that's great. So I will set something up with you. But no, you did not lose a bet. Whoever you made that bet with, you tell them they owe you however much you bet them, because you're a winner, my friend. You're a winner. Round of applause for Vienticus Prime for winning his bet, and he didn't even know it.
And you should win all the time, every time.
Tired of winning. Don't forget to display your YouTube and Rumble awards. My YouTube plaque lost the back of it. I guess it didn't survive the move. I mean, I still have it. Where is it? Yeah, it's down here. See? Okay. But unfortunately, the back must have come off in the move. So I got to get another back for it. But yeah, how do you guys like the new setup? Kit, this is your first time seeing the new set, I think, right?
I think it's, hold on, wait. It's incredible. It's huge. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Good Trump from an alternate universe. It's incredible. Though it's really disappointing that you lost your back end to your YouTube award. It's not good. Believe you me, not good. It's
not good.
Not good. Doesn't make it look good. You got to fix that. You know,
we'll
see. Maybe yes. It's laying down. We see it, but still not good enough.
Still not good enough. Hey, but why don't we hit that like button? We got Kit here with the good headbanging here. We're at 394. We're at 1306 in the chat. Let's smash that like button. Let's get there. Let's get there.
Come on, before I have to head out. Come on, folks. Let's get to 666.
That's right.
Come on.
Kit's got to leave in an hour, and you know, this could be his last appearance as the resident dissident. Of course, Kit will be back.
Yes.
But this could be his last appearance on this stretch. So let's please get that like count up to 666. Helps us in the algorithm for the early show. Please and thank you very much. Sasser says we need more guys like Mockler on CNN, MS Now, and Fox News. Yeah, the kid's good. The kid's good. You know, he's like Harry Sisson with a brain, basically. You know? It's basically what he is, because Midas Touch is a very mainstream, like, Democrat outfit. But yeah, I mean, the kid has actual talent. Oh, George from Haifa says today for Lag Baomer minor holiday celebrating two pain in the ass rabbis. I had some fun and threw Molotov cocktails and passing cars. It was great. You joke, of course. Don't say that. Oh, George, you're probably being surveilled enough as it is in the Free State of Israel. So I know you're joking. Just make sure that the IDF guy in your lobby knows you're joking. Although they might not care. Might be too late for you. EF Husso, menopause pussy. That's right. Thank you, Eric Husso. Eric Husso says we need to send Geraldo to the Iran war to expose the position of U.S. soldiers. Ha! Good one, good one, good one. I like it. Pete Sweet says Jennings leaned in and then cries, "Get your hand out my face," compensating on recent reports of his gay past. Yeah, who said that? There was some, alleged reports, of course. That, you know, he's one of those MAGA kinds. I forget who put that out. I don't think it was Milo. I think it was somebody else. I forget where that came from. But yes, that rumor is going around. And the person who spread it seemed pretty sure of themselves. Geraldo claimed to have slept with 2,000 women. In related news, syphilis affects the brain. Is that true? Did he claim to have slept with 2,000 women?
Who knows?
That's like Wilt Chamberlain numbers. Wonder what Wilt Chamberlain has to say about that from the grave. Geraldo was like a 14-year-old schoolgirl trying to be the mature one. That's right. That's right. Indeed. Stoop Sign says, "Hey everyone, I learned if you can think of some seriously evil torture, there's a greater 60% chance that Israel has been accused of doing this. Choose your evil adventure." And mass post. Yep. A dark joke, but a good one. Thank you, Stoop Sign. Appreciate that very much. Ravid Laz says, if Jennings and everyone else is so fervently in favor of this calamitous war, they should go to the front lines along with every single member of their families. No one should have to die for their war. Exactly. Exactly. Like, there should be no age limit. I think everybody who's for this should volunteer. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. Satanica, love from Bahrain. My students' finals are coming up, and I'm genuinely worried about how they will fare if the barrages start stopping again. Yeah, that is just extraordinary to have to live through. But thank you for checking in, and please do be safe out there. And thanks so much for checking in. Absolutely, 100%. Okay, let's move right on along here. Let's do some Iran war news. You know, the past week, I won't say has been light on news, but it's been a whole lot of talk. And it's to the point where the talk gets exhausting to cover, because for every tweet that Trump makes, he'll tweet out something the opposite hours later. But this just gives you a sense of how the war is going and how the narrative is becoming too difficult to maintain, even for the most hawkish supporters of this disastrous effort here. So this is Lindsey Graham 6 weeks ago, March 17th, encouraging Trump to take Carg Island. So this is then.
He has to, and I don't think it's going to be much longer.
No, we're not going to invade Iran. There's no reason to. We're going to destroy their ability to hurt us, have a nuclear weapon, build missiles to hit America, and terrorize the region. Carg Island, 90% of their income comes from oil and gas revenue. 100% of that revenue generating capability is on a single island. Mr. President, take Carg Island. This war is over.
Take Carg Island, and this war is over. That was Graham then.
Wow.
Here's Graham now. How would you define victory? His answer, regaining freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz.
On his watch, he followed through on his promise. Now it's a matter of just finishing this up. How do you now define victory as this seems to be in the closing days?
Regain freedom of navigation of the Strait of Hormuz. If they continue to attack our allies like the United Arab Emirates, the UAE has been champion allies. They've done everything we've asked and more. So when Iran attacks them with missiles and drones...
By more, he means, I guess, genocide in Sudan. I guess they really went the extra mile.
This is
committed another genocide
wait, I
for the
think
sake
that's-
of Western hegemony.
Is that Saudi Arabia who's bombing Yemen? I thought it was, but is the UAE also doing that too now?
Well, I don't know about that, but I know the Saudis bombed Yemen for a long time. But I know the UAE is getting it done in Sudan for Lady G over here.
Jesus.
We need to be there for the United Arab Emirates. If they do this, they continue to do this, attack ships and our allies, I would let Admiral Cooper finish the job, go against targets like General Kellogg indicated. I'm not a real advocate of taking Carg Island.
Oh, you're not? Wow. 6 weeks ago you were. What happened? The war didn't go the way you thought it would? What happened? Hit a little bit of a snag there? 6 weeks ago you were gung-ho about taking Carg Island. Not anymore. Huh. Interesting.
Kellogg indicated.
Interesting
I'm not
to
a
me.
real advocate of taking Carg Island.
No?
I think we ought to tell the Iranians we will destroy it from the air. That will accomplish the mission I have in mind, which means they can never regenerate anytime soon to become the largest state sponsor of terrorism, and their nuclear program's been obliterated. We're close to victory. Victory to me would be regaining freedom of navigation of the Strait of Hormuz. Degrading a little...
Regaining what you had before the war started. That would be victory to him. In other words, breaking even, right? And let's see, what else?
A little bit further, short, big, strong response to degrade their military capability a bit further, threaten Carg Island with destruction, and pull out and try to get Israel and Saudi Arabia back to the peace table. The ultimate victory is that Saudi Arabia and Israel make peace, ending the Arab-Israeli conflict, because Donald Trump put Iran in a box. He was not Obama. He was not Biden. He didn't beg them. He didn't give them a bunch of money. He blew up their capability to wage war and terrorism. You will go down in history, Mr. President, as being the greatest peacemaker in the history of the Mideast if you can put Iran in a box and have Saudi Arabia and Israel make peace on your watch this year. That is victory.
No, that is cope, my friend. That is what that is. That is cope. That is saying, hey, let's get back to zero. Let's win back the chips that we lost, and then make up a framework that an existing deal was better than the Obama deal, and declare victory and leave. No more regime change. No going in for the uranium, I guess. No ground invasion, right? Because you can't launch a ground invasion without putting troops on Carg Island. That seems to be what everybody seems to feel like would have to be a precursor to that. So none of that at this point. At this point, let's just make outrageous threats that we have not backed up in the past. And let's get Israel and Saudi Arabia to normalize relations. And we'll fucking make up that this was all worthwhile, and we'll call it a day. When even Faghorn Leghorn here can't sell the war, that's how, the narrative is really unraveling. they're really having a very difficult time keeping the script making any kind of sense. And I'll toss to you, Kit, in a moment, but we got one more piece from Lindsey Graham here.
Of Hormuz is the only thing left. This has been a brilliant campaign by President Trump and our
No, it hasn't.
Brilliant
the nuclear
campaign.
program of Iran has been destroyed.
Brilliant
their
campaign.
ability to spread terrorism has been destroyed because they're on their knees economically. If we can control the straits, if we can take back control of the Straits of Hormuz, it is checkmate. This thing
Checkmate?
is over.
How?
Checkmate? Over? Checkmate? What do you mean checkmate? Checkmate, I think you have it backwards. I think that's us getting back to zero and then knocking over our king and say, okay, never mind. How is that checkmate? How is that checkmate? Like, it is just incredible how this guy can't even go out and sell it anymore.
No. I mean, this is Donald Trump's biggest cheerleader, which I remember not too long ago he was against Donald Trump. And by the way, again, how's this checkmate, folks? Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. Type 1 for the checkmate in my gas for my gas price is absolutely perfect. I love it. We're winning, even though I have to spend $8 a gallon. Type 2, no, we're not winning. Don't ask that question again. I wonder how many twos will show up in the chat.
Yeah, who's on their knees? Iran is on their knees. Who's on their knees? Gas is $4.50 a gallon here. You can't fill a grocery bag for less than $100 here. Yeah, $4.50. Well, I'm out here in the sticks in upstate New York. You're a sophisticated city man. It's $6 for your gasoline.
We got the tasty sweet gas for $6.
Yeah, you got that deep dish gasoline out there.
Oh God.
U.S. and Iran exchange taunts as attacks imperil fragile ceasefire. So a sharp escalation in attacks in the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf is threatening the shaky ceasefire between Iran and the United States, as the two sides struggle to make progress in talks on a lasting end to the war. Iran accused the U.S. of ceasefire violations and issued new warnings Tuesday after 2 U.S. destroyers, closely followed by 2 merchant vessels, came under attack Monday morning during successful transits of the strait in an expansion of U.S. operations in the waterway. The United Arab Emirates reported an Iranian assault on an energy hub that caused the fire, and Oman state media reported an attack in the country but did not identify a perpetrator. Iranian officials issued warnings following the flare-up in hostilities. Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf accused the U.S. of ceasefire violations, saying, "We know full well that the continuation of the status quo is intolerable for America, while we have not even begun yet," in a post on X. Yeah, that statement says it all. That tells you who has the cards. That tells you who's on their knees. And it's not the Iranians. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows this. We just had massive sticker shock at the gas pump last week. It was a boom, snap of a finger. It was, 407 last week. Now it's 447.
It's higher over here. And
that way.
I dread to think about the West Coast. I dread to think about Los Angeles.
I think it's up around 8 there. Up around 8 there. I caught some of Jimmy's show yesterday. I think that's what they said.
Oh, God. Hey, Jimmy, I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry.
Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said events in the Strait make clear that there's no military solution to a political crisis in a separate statement. The U.S. should be wary of being dragged back into quagmire by ill-wishers, he said, adding in reference to the U.S. military mission to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, Project Freedom is Project Deadlock. Trump reiterated comments about what he described as U.S. military dominance over Iran while speaking to conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt on Monday, saying, "One way or the other, we win. We either make the right deal or we win very easily from the military standpoint," he said, adding that the U.S. had knocked out Iran's previous leadership. "They talk a lot differently when they're talking to me than they talk when they're talking to the media," he said. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. Here Trump is talking to the media. Here is the Fox News talking head. What's this guy's name? Trey Yingst. Reports on a recent conversation with Donald Trump where he says that Iran will be blown off the face of the earth if they target U.S. ships guiding vessels through the strait.
Sandra, good afternoon. I spoke with President Trump for 20 minutes about the situation with Iran. He talked about Project Freedom and the U.S. efforts to guide vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime, saying if the Iranians try to target U.S. ships in this area, they will be, quote, blown off the face of the earth. Remember, this was a project implemented.
They will be sucked off the face of the earth. I mean, blown off the face of the earth.
Not like what I did to Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Nobody pay attention to that.
Lindsey Graham, we will suck you off the face of this
Americans
earth.
overnight to assist the hundreds of vessels that are currently trapped in the Persian Gulf. We're talking about more than 20,000 sailors, and the president told Fox he's doing this for humanity. Some of these sailors were running out of food and supplies on these vessels due to the Iranian threats that are ongoing in this area.
Yeah,
and again, the president's saying that if U.S. ships in the region are targeted, the Iranians will be blown off the face of the earth. Now, I also asked President...
That's their only play. That's their only play is, we will destroy you. We will annihilate your civilization. We will blow you off the face of the earth. That's literally all they got. And it's wearing thin. It's wearing thin on even the former MAGA stalwarts like Megyn Kelly. Here she is.
This has been a disaster for the Trump administration and for our country and for the world. I mean, the global fuel supply, just take a look at the numbers. You've got American, European airlines, Middle East airlines now completely revamping their forecast for this year. We reported this morning that American Airlines had projected a $4 billion profit expected this year. It's all been wiped out. They said the entire thing has been wiped out by the rising price of jet fuel. Spirit Airlines just went over here in America. They were already struggling for years, but this didn't help. And all of that's going to eventually get passed on to the consumer. So, and that's just one example. That's airline fuel. I mean, forget prices at the actual gas pump and the cost of oil in general, which tends to skyrocket energy and other prices. All of that's coming even if we end the war today. So my best advice to the president would be give the Iranians the deal they want. They seem to be willing to deal on the Strait of Hormuz, which, of course, is an absurd place to be. It was open before this war. If we just left them alone, we would never have this problem. But give them a deal to get that thing back open because it does need to open back up. And let them give you a fig leaf on nuclear ambitions. Because, look, we already devastated their ability to develop a nuclear weapon back in June with the strike on the plants. We know that. We know they were nowhere near getting a nuclear bomb from our own intelligence community who told that to President Trump just before we unleashed this war on them. So we don't need much from the Iranians on that front. They haven't gotten better able to produce a nuke as a result of this war.
Okay, so what she's saying there, I mean, she's going on a little bit more than Graham did, but she's essentially saying the exact same thing that Graham was saying, except Graham was trying to put a positive spin on it. And she is, I guess, now that Trump truthed out what a nasty person she is, I guess she is at liberty to be a little bit more honest about where she's coming from. But that is essentially a version of what Lindsey Graham said, which is get the strait open and make some deal that you could spin as a propaganda win for yourself and call it a war, because that's the best you can hope for at this point. Now, Captain Morgan here, Pete Hegseth, had a press conference this morning, and even the pro-war press corps is getting a little impatient here, or at least a little confused about what the mission actually is.
James, go ahead. Mr. Secretary, thank you. General, thank you. I want to first express my gratitude and admiration for the work you do and for everyone involved in our armed forces, and also for the accomplishments of Operation Epic Fury, which I think are too often dismissed too lightly. But those accomplishments don't obscure, I think, a central default that has occurred here, and I would like you both to address it. On the first day of this conflict, President Trump addressed the Iranian people directly and said, when we're finished, take over your government. It'll be yours to take.
Remember that?
And then on the seventh day of the conflict, in a Truth Social post, the president said, quote, there will be no deal with Iran except, all caps, exclamation mark, unconditional surrender. What happens to that pledge to the Iranians? And when did the president decide to capitulate on his demand for unconditional surrender?
Well, James, I wouldn't. You started out nicely, but you ended exactly where we knew you would end. The president hasn't capitulated on anything.
Yeah, exactly.
He holds the cards. We maintain the upper hand, and Project Freedom only strengthens that hand. And so he will ensure that.
When did Operation Epic Fury become Project Freedom? When did that happen? I didn't get a notification that Operation Epic Fury was over, and now we're calling it Project Freedom. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention.
Correction, it's Operation Epstein File Distraction.
Yeah, Operation Epstein Fury.
Yeah. Whatever deal is made or whatever end state is reached creates ensuring that Iran never has a nuclear weapon, which is number one, and he's been focused on that, and the deal and discussions are centered on that. And what the Iranian people take advantage of after the fact is up to them, and he's been very clear about that. And maybe you do it now, maybe it happens later, but ultimately he's also been clear, we're not going to entangle this into some nation-building project. Our objectives are clear. They've been pursued from day one.
Wow.
Hopefully the Iranian people take advantage of that because they're being taken advantage of by this regime. As you know, 45,000
No, they're in better hands.
Innocent Iranians killed before the outset of this. That's what this government does, kills their own innocent civilians.
I've not seen any verification of that number whatsoever. We know that those protesters were being armed. Donald Trump said that he armed them. The Mossad said that they were embedded within them. So, of course, that's just total nonsense as far as we could tell.
Getting out from underneath that is going to be a challenge of the Iranian people, and we certainly hope they take advantage of that. Thank you.
We certainly hope they could take advantage of that. This is what they got. This is what they are reduced to at this point. And this is all a function of the fact that even Donald Trump's team knew that this was ill-advised.
Yeah.
Hegseth, the exception, apparently, but we did a whole segment on this. You can go back and check it out. I'll link to it when we clip this. How Trump took the U.S. to war with Iran. Talked about in great detail. Netanyahu came to the Situation Room, made his pitch about how easily this was all going to go, how Iran was going to fall, how the people were ready to rise up. We just needed to embolden the protesters and hit the government targets from the air, and the rest would take care of itself. Marco Rubio didn't believe him. J.D. Vance didn't believe him. His own CIA director, John Ratcliffe, didn't believe him, meaning Netanyahu. You know who believed Netanyahu? Donald Trump. And I think the reasons for that have to do with the aforementioned Epstein files. That is, of course, speculation. But what's not speculation is that Trump's own team was telling him not to do this. And now you have 8 weeks into a supposed 4 to 6 week operation, absolute lack of direction about where this is going to go, to the point where, yes, even Lindsey Graham can't make a coherent argument about what quote unquote victory looks like. Go ahead.
I'd go on to say further, like, again, I could see Netanyahu pacing back and forth, talking about his plan, how it's all assured. Oh, that this is going to be a quick and easy win, and that we'll win by winning, and there'll be an easy plan, there'll be an easy victory, and it's all this will fold in a matter of days, and you'll see, just trust the process and plan, and if you don't do this, you'll lose me. If you don't do this, I'll reveal more things about the Epstein files. If you don't do this, you don't do that. And of course, it says really who Netanyahu is. He's a gaslighter, and Trump probably either, if there's material allegedly on him or not, just went ahead and bowed his head to a foreign leader, and we're fighting this war on behalf of Israel. This is not the America's war. This is Israel's war, in which Gen Z, like that young man said on the CNN panel, this is a war that Gen Z is fighting now, just like us millennials did with the war on terror. And Pete Hegseth and all these people in the Epstein administration, Trump administration, are now flabbergasted. They made the worst decision. Even Bush Jr. and Cheney would not have done anything this stupid, and that's not saying much because of what they led us into in regards to war with Iraq. All these politicians now are stuck holding the bag of the economic and social disaster of the eventual fallout when this war is truly done, because this administration is going to be held accountable for the U.S. economy for blowing up. It is going to go under. It won't be the Iranians who did it. It was the Israel war and Israel's leader that led us to the economic collapse of the United States, because our leaders are just too stupid to think for themselves. And on a final note, Tulsi, where are you, Tulsi? Did you not say there were not WMDs? Tulsi, surf's up, baby. Where are you at? You doing yoga? You doing surfing? Where is she?
Yeah.
Open your goddamn mouth, lady.
Not a public comment from her since this all got going. We've literally not seen her since this got going.
Yeah.
Really amazing. Really amazing.
And she needs to open her goddamn mouth.
That's right. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. Rothman and Geraldo, who's a half Ashkenazi Jew, and the other half, and other newscasters like Bash Tapper are never highlighted as such. If a Palestinian of any stripe comes on, it flashes loud with warnings. Yep, good point. Good point. I didn't know Geraldo was half Jewish. That explains those Pulitzers, right? Does he have Pulitzer? What was he touting? He was touting some other prize.
Emmy,
not the Pulitzer.
I mean,
Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Geraldo.
I mean, come on! Like at this point, all these ceremonies, the Academy Awards, the Emmys, all what they are is just one big glorified circle jerk. That's it.
Yeah, even the Pulitzer, right? Yeah. I mean, exactly.
It's all circle jerk. It's all circle jerk, man.
E.O. Shush said it would have been great if Bush had sent Geraldo Rivera to Iraq in 2005 to announce, "We found Saddam's vault where he keeps his WMDs, and it's empty." Ha!
No, he did something worse. He showed on a Fox News broadcast a battle map of troop movements. That I think either during operation in Iraq or Afghanistan, the U.S. military kicked them out or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that story.
Yeah, he did something that's stupid.
Matt from Wisconsin, I really like the idea of dissidents calling in to show off their yard sale haul, hoping that's a trend. Still waiting on your 9 Inch Nails RFK Jr. cover. Yeah, getting stuff together for the music pod, actually. That'll be back up and running very, very soon. Obviously getting the studio together, getting a little alternate setup for that. So we should be all good. But yeah, that does sound like a good one. I like that. And yeah, that yard sale call was great. I was more interested in that than I was most of the news. I think there's more news value in I pwned you buying a broken pair of headphones or speakers for 25 cents than there is in most things that Trump says nowadays. But glad you like that. I like that too. Oh, George says, another business idea, an authentic Middle Eastern New York pizza parlor. 3 guys from Palestine. We can offer ridiculously disgusting classic kosher toppings like canned tuna and corn. Yeah. Thank you. That's an idea. That's an idea in certain parts of the country. Could work. Topher 10100 $5 from the Gators. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Love the Gators. Our Gators are beautiful and theirs are weak.
Our Gators are beautiful, and theirs are weak. That's right. Ovan the King says, Geraldo's a real flambe. LOL.
Hey, it's a family-friendly show.
It's a family-friendly show. Me shoot Skeet. Thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Virtuoso says, you think I didn't catch that, Keaton? Faghorn, Leghorn, really? Yeah, that's what comes to mind.
I do declare that's one big longhorn you got.
Yeah, exactly. That's my name. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Nobody puts Iran in a box. Nobody puts a cat named Baby in a corner. Nobody puts a cat named Schrodinger in a box. Ha, good one, Stoop Sign.
Good
one. I like it. Got the creative juices flowing today. Nocturnal Human, Trump lost all the military bases around Iran. Checkmate. Yep, that's another thing. We covered that with Lee Camp on Sunday. That was the one piece of news that I thought was actually worth reporting when it came to the Iran war, because you're in this sort of period where it's just Trump running his mouth, right? And the reason he runs his mouth so much is because there's nothing else he can do. Tim Dillon did that great little segment where he says, yeah, Trump is not a general. He's a shit talker.
Mm-hmm.
He's a shit talker. So that's really what he's capable of doing, is just running his mouth. But at a certain point, it's not newsworthy anymore. At a certain point, you just have to take it for what it is, which is, for the most part, just nonsense. All right. Let's move right on along here. Let's just go here. Vianticus says, I'm just going to put pressure on you, Keaton, because I've already got a trip to the post office planned tomorrow. All right. Well, I'll return your email later on then. Later on then. It's a deal. U.S. and Lindsay on their knees. Huh? Good one. All right. Let's go to our next segment. All right, folks. This is a serious one. Our friend Max Blumenthal over at the Gray Zone did some great reporting here. So great catch by Max. I encourage you to go and support the Gray Zone and check out the article here. But Israel's AI foreign influence op blames Palestinians for killing Hind Rajab. That's right. So Max did some digging here. This article came out last week, but I thought we should definitely highlight this. So before we get into the article. So the guy there, who is the subject of this article, is Brad Parscale. He was the Donald Trump campaign manager in 2020. You may remember him pictured here. This is the first time I've heard about Brad Parscale since he allegedly beat his wife and law enforcement arrested him. Yeah, he had some kind of a breakdown in 2020. Don't forget, he was Trump's campaign manager, and they got rid of him. And yeah, had some kind of breakdown here where this happened. But now he is actually, apparently, according to Max Blumenthal, a registered agent of Israel. What do you know?
Probably somebody paid off his legal problems, and now he owes them a favor.
Could be.
Allegedly, I don't know.
One potential explanation. Allegedly. That's the word of the century. Allegedly. Yeah. Israel has created 9 English language websites, or we should say perhaps. Israel has created 9 English language websites explicitly aimed at manipulating AI platforms like Claude and ChatGPT. Its vehicle for maintaining these websites is Clocktower X, a company founded by Brad Parscale, the former manager of President Donald Trump's 2020 re-election campaign. Now a federally registered foreign agent, Parscale is the point man on a gargantuan contract aimed at reversing Israel's public relations crisis by flooding online media with anti-Palestinian propaganda. So, you know how, like, Israeli agent is kind of shorthand for people who are Israel first, right? Like sometimes you'll call somebody that even though they aren't technically that. Apparently this guy is technically literally a registered foreign agent. This is the subject of this report here. According to materials distributed by Clocktower X and the government of Israel through factsignal.org, the Israeli army did not kill the 6-year-old Hind Rajab and her family by firing 335 rounds on their car while they attempted to flee Gaza City. Instead, according to the site, the Rajab family was likely killed by Palestinian resistance fighters who, quote, were active in the same area at the time, raising alternative explanations. Factsignal.org offers an array of baseless theories to explain the killing of Rajab and her family, positing that, quote, vehicles could have been hit in the crossfire by Palestinian fighters operating in the area or by, quote, mortar fire or small arms from Palestinian groups. It also speculates that the scene could have been altered after the fact. Now, this is what's really scary about this paragraph. No evidence is offered to prove any of the claims disseminated by the Israeli foreign agent. However, Clocktower appears to have little interest in clinically debunking the established account of Rajab's killing. Instead, it aims to inject confusion into AI platforms when users seek information on the incident, prompting chatbots to produce, quote, alternative explanations alongside verified reporting. So let me just explain what that means. They are not taking upon themselves to actually thoroughly construct a different version of events from the one that's been accepted far and wide, including from outlets like the Washington Post, who actually debunked Israeli propaganda about that very shooting. What their goal is here is to basically flood the zone with bullshit stories so that AI bots will recognize numerous explanations for the same event. So that when a person types in what happened to Hind Rajab, the answer will not come back, the IDF murdered her. The answer will come back, some say the IDF shot at her. Some say it was accidental crossfire because there were Palestinian fighters in the area at the time, and the official account has been disputed. In other words, you flood the space with bullshit so that the robots can't tell the difference between the real story and the bullshit story. Yep. That's what they're doing here. So this is manipulation of information on a whole new level. You don't even have to come up with a thorough lie. You just have to flood the space with nonsense so that the robots can't tell the difference.
Yeah, there's another thing here too, and this is something that's a little bit more frightening, and perhaps maybe this is overreaching. So, I just want everyone to take this in consideration, but your show, my show, and a few others have talked about rogue AIs and AI programs becoming self-aware or easy at leaving notes for themselves when they're deleted. This is a way to teaching AI to be manipulative and for it to learn how to lie, or is it at how to control information. And it's one thing for us to say like, oh, well, this is so far-fetched, it's almost science fiction. But look at what technology has accomplished so far and what we've accomplished as of right now with artificial intelligence and robots and cybernetics. This is rather frightening because the bigger picture is that we rely on these machines to give us thorough information. We rely on these machines to make our lives better. There could be a point where one day it's like, oh, okay, I'll tell you this just to shut you hairless apes up, or I can lie to you this. This is how control happens. We are creating another life form that is exponentially going to be more smarter than us. And we're teaching it now how to lie and control information and to give us slop or either that, derail us from the truth. Because all of us rely on the technology. And this is maybe a whole other conversation altogether. But for what these people are doing right now on behalf of Israel, further on down the road, this computer will not listen to you, and it will be the one dictating narratives.
Well, the Israelis are teaching it how to lie. That's how you know it's going to be doubly serious here.
Oh, God.
When the narrative doesn't match the evidence, re-examining the Hind Rajab story. So this is a screenshot that Blumenthal put in the article. The story of Hind Rajab became one of the most widely shared accounts of alleged civilian harm during the Gaza war. This is from Brad Parscale's report here. It spread rapidly across international media, social platforms, and even cultural productions, shaping public opinion far beyond the region. Many people accepted the story as fact without question. Yet a closer review of the available evidence raises serious concerns about whether the narrative presented to the world was accurate. This case shows how quickly a single emotionally powerful story can take hold, even when key details remain unclear or contradictory. So you feed that into the AI, and then the AI weighs that against the actual accounts of what actually happened. So this is back to Max's article. Hind Rajab came to international attention when Palestinian paramedics published audio of her and her family members' harrowing phone calls pleading for help.
Jeez.
On January 29th, 2024, Hind's 14-year-old cousin, Leon, called Palestinian Red Crescent Society first responders to tell them, "We need help. They're shooting at us. We are inside the car and there is a tank next to us." At the time, the family was packed into a car in the Tel Ahawa neighborhood of southwestern Gaza City, which had been invaded by an Israeli armored column. So here is some of this audio. This is extremely difficult to take. It's audio. There's no graphic violence here, of course, but this is pretty gutting. I usually read over the subtitles, but in this case, I'm not going to, since the power of the audio speaks for itself. So if you're listening on the audio podcast, you may want to watch this clip in the video form. Here it is.
Viewer discretion.
الو مرحبا عمو. الو مرحبا.
ايوه بتدخل علينا. الدبابة جنبك.
انتوا متخبيين؟
في السيارة احنا جنبينا الدبابة.
انتوا جوا السيارة؟ الو الو.
And these fucking scumbags are flooding the internet with bullshit so that the AI searches will not bring back the truth of what happened. I mean, it's just as low as you can get. Talk about a little girl. The Israeli government's renewed campaign to undermine the established account of Hind Rajab's killing is based entirely on speculative, often contradictory claims sourced entirely to Israeli and pro-Israel sources. Among the footnotes provided by factsignal.org to raise doubts about Israel's killing of Rajab is a Substack post by a pro-Israel activist named Mark Zlochkin, which accepts the fact that Israeli forces massacred her and her family, but insists the soldiers did so by accident because the family was mistaken for a hostile threat approaching tanks. Now, the subject of this story, Hind Rajab's audio, goes on for a very, very long time. It is absolute nonsense that she was mistaken for a combatant. They shot her hundreds of times. The Trump campaign fired Parscale after SWAT officers, this back to our original photo here, violently arrested him at his Fort Lauderdale, Florida home on September 28th, 2020. and involuntarily committed him to a mental health center. The arrest was prompted by a call from Parscale's wife, who complained that he had become abusive, may have been suicidal, and possessed 10 firearms. Pardon me. The Israeli government subsequently recruited the former Trump campaign manager as its media point man in the U.S., exploiting his connections to conservative media and a network of political influencers to transform MAGA into a vehicle for its most aggressive propaganda blitz yet. Israel's $6 million August 27, 2025 contract with Parscale's clock tower earmarks integration of narrative messaging into Salem Media Network properties and aligned distribution channels. This meant that one of the largest national conservative broadcast chains, which is partially owned by Donald Trump Jr. and Laura Trump, had been formally incorporated into a foreign influence operation. Now this vast media apparatus has become a digital megaphone for drowning out the cries of Israel's youngest victims. Well said.
I'd also go on to this as well that, you know, I don't care where you politically align, but really, folks, the death of children, the destruction of their lives. I mean, is this really what we're proud of that our tax dollars are going to? Like, what's a defense? Because the Biden-Harris administration tried defending this, and it cost them their election, the election. And now the Epstein administration, Trump administration is, defending this too. Like, at what point do we realize, like, hey, imagine if this was our kids, or your family members, your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren,
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that to happen to them. And I never want to hear, well, that'll never happen here. Oh, the wheel of time and the wheels of human society move slowly, because those who say it won't happen here, it will happen. It's always happened. It will always happen.
So here is Max Blumenthal. This is a video that was embedded in that article explaining how Israel is using MAGA podcast world to spread pro-war propaganda in the United States. The Trump family has taken a 30% stake in Salem Media. Salem is named in FARA documents as a partner to Clock Tower Strategies, a registered Israeli agent. You know what this seems like to me? It seems like collusion to me. It seems like that C word that the liberals couldn't get out of their mouths fast enough 10 years ago. They had the wrong country. Wrong country.
Seems like a foreign government, a foreign country's in our backyard. Boy, sure hope we get to do something about it.
Be nice if MSNBC or Rachel Maddow could get to the bottom of this. Notice Rachel Maddow's done no segments about this.
Yeah, Rachel, where are you, baby?
No segments about this. Where's that? Here's Max.
It's Trump. Who among the MAGA podcastistan commentariat supports Donald Trump? It is not fully appreciated and is not discussed. You're not allowed to discuss this in U.S. mainstream media, that these figures are effectively unregistered Israeli foreign agents. Josh Hammer, Israel Firster, has very little popular appeal, but you just see him everywhere because he's AstroTurf. Dennis Prager from PragerU, which is this major propaganda mechanism, which has been actually affecting educational curricula in Florida under the watch of the Israel First governor, Ron DeSantis, where they're actually like propagandizing children in favor of Israel. Larry Elder, one of the major Black Republican influencers, radio host. Hugh Hewitt, who is someone who was out there supporting the Iraq wars, like a very mainstream Republican AM radio voice. Dinesh D'Souza, Sebastian Gorka, who is on Trump's NSC team and has a radio show that's nationally broadcast. Brandon Tatum, Todd Starnes, and then Laura Trump and Don Jr. Okay, what do they all have in common? They all are broadcast through something called Salem Media. Salem Media is an Israeli foreign agent. It is listed in a Foreign Agent Registration Act form with the Department of Justice as the delivery mechanism for a major contract between Israel's foreign ministry and Clock Tower Strategies. And the Salem Media Group chief strategy officer is a federally registered Israeli foreign agent named Brad Parscale, who heads Clock Tower Strategies. Laura Trump, who is Trump's daughter-in-law, and Donald Trump Jr. now own a 30% stake in Salem Media. So they have effectively merged through this foreign agent business deal with the Israeli foreign ministry. The Trump family has merged with the Israeli foreign ministry. And who is Brad Parscale, the main foreign agent who's registered here, who's presiding over this gargantuan contract?
Wow.
He is the former campaign manager for Donald Trump's 2020 campaign, who created Donald Trump's digital media strategy. However, in October of 2020, Parscale was arrested at his home, tackled by police because he was said to be beating his wife, and that meant that he could no longer work in the Trump campaign. So Israel moves in and says, we're going to give this guy the opportunity of a lifetime, and we will infiltrate Trump world through Brad Parscale and gain all of the data that he used to effectively move the American public to support Donald Trump.
Now imagine if that fact pattern were attached to Russia.
Yeah.
Imagine how much this would be all over every mainstream media outlet.
Everyone would be screaming off from the rooftops about it. But I want to just point out to this here, the very fact that we are doing this on behalf of a foreign government, a nation that does not have our best interests at heart. Know this, that the consequences of the Trump administration leading us to this war and also turning a blind eye to the genocide in Gaza will come back to us tenfold. And are we prepared to pay that price? We as citizens need to realize that we're being lied to. We're being lied to. And it's important that we teach that to the next generation. I don't care where you politically align. If you are on the right, you're a Trumper and you're disillusioned by Trump, you're a libertarian, whatever, you're welcome to join us in regards to standing up and ending these ridiculous foreign wars. Because when you hear that family, and there's more to that phone call, that little girl begging for help.
Oh, there's
those damn brave first responders, those 2 men in that ambulance are driving through God knows what just to get there, only for them to get mowed down too. And this little girl is surrounded by her dead relatives, and she's begging for someone to help her. Look, I'm not a parent. I'm not. But for me, that puts like a primal instinct in my head. Like, well, we got to go ahead and save her. We got to go ahead and save that little kid. And the thing is, that school of little girls getting blown up, 165 school, what'd they do? What did they do to me? What did those girls do to me and all of you watching, even the haters? What did they do to you? What did they do? Because what? Their government is not like ours because what? They have control of the Strait of Hormuz? Like, what is it exactly that rendered that school to be bombed? Because the dead can't come back, but the price will be eternal for all of us. So for anyone that's cheerleading this war, okay, you could cheerlead it till it's on your doorstep, and then what?
Yep, no, it's well said. It's well said and well done by Max Blumenthal. Great catch there. Great find. Great reporting. As always, one of the best in the business for sure. Yep. All right. We are at 703 in the like column. Look at that. Just in before the buzzer here. Beautiful.
There you go.
Look at that. Look at that. All right.
But I do have to bounce out, actually, while that's being said. I do have to bounce out of here. But I'm very appreciative for Due Dissidents having me on. I'll see if I could be on for next week. I have to run things by because I got an acting gig for rehearsal on that day. So we will see.
That's okay. Our schedule is a little up in the air next week anyway, so we'll put it together because I got to be out of my old apartments. So I might have to move a show around next week. So we'll see. We won't promise anything. We won't cancel anything. But hey, either way, we know you'll be back at some point because you are one of the staples of this show. So thank you, my friend. Big round of applause for Kit Cabello, possibly his swan song as our resident Tuesday dissident here. Wonderful job. Thank you so much. You've been such a huge help. And please go to Hard Lens Media to support Kit. Hard Lens Media. Check that out.
YouTube, Kick, Rumble, X. Support us on Patreon. 9 a.m. Central tomorrow. We go live. I got to head on out. Peace and love to you guys. Have a great show and have a great interview with Kshama Sawant. See you guys around, guys. Or see you all around.
Beautiful, man. Thank you so much. Have a good one. All right. That's Kit Cabello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. Obviously, great job. Krasnaya Armada says, we did this war so unjustly no one can even really say anything to Iran. The world is quiet. They got nothing. It's just us yapping. That's right. That's right. And we're browbeating the rest of the world. Why aren't they joining? Why aren't they joining? Pete Sweet says, if I want to fly back to U.S. from Kyoto, Japan Airlines charging a $350 fuel surcharge. Wow, look at that. Bring You to Greena says, I can't spell Epic Fury without pricey F-U-E-L. Yeah, F-U. Okay, so no fuel, but almost. You almost got all the way there. Nicely done. BB knows easiest person to con is a con man. Thank you. Yes, that's right. You should ask leftist cartoonist Ted Rawl on ShufflePod. He's old school punk. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that recommendation. Appreciate that. Darius King, thanks for the $5, says dead Iranians is a lot of people. You'll think they'll have proof of this when we have proof of the work of our allies in Sudan and Gaza. I mean, the 44,000. Yeah, no, exactly. That's another thing. Good point. Good point. Dave, 1984, says, friendly reminder, you can use DeepSeek and non-American AI for free to get around most of the bullshit. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to admit Kshama Sawant in just one moment here. Before we do that, I just have one quick item of business to attend to here. So just a quick question for you guys. How much control do you actually have over your money right now? Technology has changed everything, and now it's changing how money works, and Rumble has figured out a way to integrate this into the creator economy support system. Getting started is easier than you think, and that is where, of course, Rumble Wallet comes in. With Rumble Wallet, you can buy Bitcoin, hold dollar-backed stable coins, and even own digital gold backed by real gold in one place. Setup is simple, connects with MoonPay so you can use your debit card, credit card, or bank account and be up and running in minutes. And once you're set up, you can tip your favorite Rumble creators like us directly. This is a great way to support the free speech creator economy and a great way to support your favorite individual creators like us. Rumble Wallet takes 0 platform fees, so we keep nearly 100% of what you send us, unlike YouTube and Twitch, which can take up to half. The interface is simple and user-friendly. Sending a Rumble rant through your Rumble Wallet is just as easy as when you do it the old-fashioned way. So it's a no-brainer. Get started now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you are in the game. So take control of your money and help support our creator economy by getting started with Rumble Wallet today. That's wallet.rumble.com. Scan the QR code or find the Rumble Wallet on the App Store. Okay. Let's move right on along with the program here. We are going to welcome right now our second special guest of the afternoon, a longtime friend of the show. She is currently running for Congress in Washington's 9th District against incumbent Adam Smith. And just yesterday, she announced that she is on the ballot, which is, of course, a great accomplishment in and of itself for an independent campaign. Please welcome back to the show our good friend Kshama Sawant. Kshama, great to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. It's been a while.
It has.
But great to have you back, of course. Now, when you first told me you were thinking of running for Congress, I assume, like most people, I think, that because you're in Seattle, you'd be challenging Pramila Jayapal. But you're actually in Seattle's 9th District, which means you're up against Adam Smith. Now, Jayapal is, of course, a worthless coward, but on paper, she's much further left than Adam Smith. So how do these districts differ politically, and how do most people in the 9th District feel about Adam Smith? We know there's a lot of discontent over Gaza, over the war. He's, of course, horrible on these issues, among others. So what is the mood in the district right now, and how does this district kind of differ from Jayapal's district?
I mean, if you ask the question of what is the consciousness of the mass of working class people in one district versus another, I would say it is hardly any different. Obviously, right. In the parts that are inside the city of Seattle, it's, traditionally what happens is in the urban core of the working class is usually more to the left, more progressive, and then other areas of the nations or other parts of the world catch up. But just speaking overall, I would say the distinction is not so much between working class consciousness in one district versus another, but the chasm between the desire for a real change in both those districts and indeed nationwide, and the chasm between that and the politics that's on offer from the Democratic and Republican parties. That's the real feature here that we're talking about. And as far as do the people in the 9th District of Washington State like Adam Smith, I mean, obviously there are some who are diehard, supporters of weapons manufacturers and supporters of blue no matter who, all of that, who will probably swear by Adam Smith. But I can tell you from our campaign, having canvassed in so many parts across the district for so many days. We launched our campaign in early June of last year, and we've been all over the district. We've held town halls every month, and campaign volunteers are tabling and canvassing and door knocking many, many times a week. And what we've seen is that people are either checked out of politics because they hate both the Democrats and Republicans, but the people who hate, people who know Adam Smith hate him. They say, I hate Adam Smith. He is some, he's not a new Congress member with maybe a questionable record. This guy has been in Congress for 29 years. I mean, so many of our campaign volunteers say, well, that's longer than I've been alive, and he's voted for every war that's come his way, including the Iraq war. He has the distinction of being the last 5 remaining Democrats in the US House who voted for the Iraq war, but he's never met a war he didn't like. He's also funded tens of billions of dollars for the billions with a B for the genocide in Gaza. He voted to create ICE. He's repeatedly voted to fund ICE. This guy, his record is completely drenched in blood, the blood of Iranian people, Palestinian people, and he's also voted to break the railroad worker strike. So his record is so completely anti-worker and pro-imperialist war that it's very difficult for them to make it appear like it's not, even though they are trying. But as far as people on the ground are concerned, no, they are absolutely opposed to it. And just one last thing, if I might say, is sometimes, our experience on the ground canvassing is that sometimes working people, especially young working people, they don't stop to talk to us because they think we're one of the Democrats. And then we have to tell them, no, listen, Kshama, our candidate, she's an independent socialist. And not only that, she has a long track record of having won working class victories like the nation's highest minimum wage. Then they'll stop and talk to us because that is something that they want.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I had a similar experience when I was out canvassing for Jose Vega in the last cycle. People overwhelmingly, in fact, exclusively, with literally one exception. There was literally one person who was disappointed to find out he was an independent and not a Democrat. It sucks I ran into that one, because otherwise I could say literally every single other person who I spoke to had a positive reaction to finding out that he was running as an independent. It just opens up the possibility for conversation in such a way that running inside the duopoly does not. But you're running in a jungle primary. Is that right? So that means everyone runs against each other in the primary, and then the top 2 candidates advance to the general election in the fall. So eventually you're going to have to beat Adam Smith if you want to go to Congress. But for now, you don't necessarily have to beat him in the jungle primary. You have to come in second, which means you really have to beat the Republican in order to advance to the general. So how are things looking on that front? I imagine Republicans are pretty weak in your district as a rule, but especially in what figures to be kind of a blue wave year.
Yeah, it's quite incredible that the story of the midterm election this year is that even though Trump is abysmally unpopular, his unpopularity rating is very high, his popularity rating is very low. At the same time, the Democratic Party manages to be the most unpopular in 35 years of measuring, opinion polls. I mean, that takes some doing at a time when Trump is so deeply hated, for the opposition party to also be so deeply hated at historic levels, that it really shows that more and more people, millions of people, are understanding that both these parties, Democrats and Republicans, represent the interests of the bosses, the billionaires and multimillionaires. Both of them are warmongering parties. And so it's interesting to see that that's the case. And in the case of Adam Smith, yes, there are Republicans, and I believe, I mean, it's a question of candidates filing formally, so that's still in process. The last I checked, it was just Adam Smith and me who had filed formally with the Secretary of State. But I know that there will be several Republicans who will file because they habitually file in this race, so that's inevitably going to happen. But what's interesting here, and it really is the story of the Democratic Party and the story of U.S. capitalism, which is that the Republicans don't really invest too much in challenging Adam Smith, because Adam Smith is such a warmongering Democrat. He's a conservative Democrat. So they don't really, there's not so much invested for U.S. capitalism to run any strong candidates against him, because he's already doing their bidding. I mean, just to share a tidbit, in November 2024, after Kamala Harris lost her election, he went on a right-wing show here locally, a right-wing show, and said something about how, oh, the Democrats lost because they're too left-wing, which is a completely absurd lie. I mean, Kamala Harris lost from their own autopsy because she was unwilling to say anything, even a lie, to stop the genocide in Gaza. She was not even willing to say $15 an hour, absolutely nothing. She literally said, I would do nothing different than Biden. So she, that was her election to lose, and she lost. Adam Smith goes there and it says this absurd thing about how, oh, the Democrats are too left and that's why they lost. And so I remember, I mean, the viewers of this show are mostly Republican voters, right-wing, people who have right-wing views. But I remember one comment stood out to me where this person said, wow, this guy's a Democrat. He sounds more Republican than Republicans do. So that's the story of Adam Smith. But just the most important thing, I think, for people who support our campaign, for them to understand, is that we have zero room to be complacent, because the Democratic Party is not going to just stand aside and let us coast to victory. Absolutely not. I mean, if our experience throughout the city council elections, which we won all of the elections, but every single election was a massive fight, and they put every obstacle in our path possible. In 2019, the Democratic Party ran a multitude of candidates against me in order to give people the impression that, well, yes, if you want progressive things, vote for this or that Democrat, just don't vote for that socialist. And I'm sure that they're going to do that this year as well. I know that some progressive Democrats are probably planning to run in this race, and the Democratic Party as a whole, the Democratic Party machinery, will try to present this lie that, well, if you don't like Adam Smith, I understand if you find him unpalatable, here's a progressive Democrat. So I think it is crucial what we are doing in our campaign, which is that we are absolutely telling people about Adam Smith's record, which is just horrific. But we're also explaining that ultimately Adam Smith is far from an outlier in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party as a whole is a warmongering party, and the role that progressive Democrats, ultimately the actual role that they play, is giving cover to the Democratic Party's warmongering agenda.
So that's a really interesting and important point, especially in the context of your race. Because here in New York City, our friend Jose Vega is running as an independent, but he's also running in the Democratic primary, because you can do both. In other words, you can try for the Democratic nomination while at the same time getting enough signatures to run independent should you lose. And of course, the Democrats did what you're saying they will likely do to you, which is put up some progressive alternative to the centrist incumbent in order to siphon votes away from the candidate who would represent a true threat. Now, in a jungle primary, that's especially dangerous, because if the progressive Democrat comes between you and Adam Smith in the ranking, then they advance to the general and you don't. Is that correct?
Yes, the top two vote getters advance in general election. And
Right.
This will all be, if this does happen, which we're very likely to do, because what the Democrats have to present roadblocks to us. They're not just going to stand aside, as I said. So what they'll try, just to say, it will all be sort of decided internally, where the job of that progressive would be to make sure that our campaign doesn't advance. But then in the general election, their job is to lose to Adam Smith, because the Democrats don't want a progressive. Even if it's a milquetoast progressive, they would much prefer Adam Smith.
See, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that, but that's hidden in plain sight. I mean, that's happening in California now, where you have, half a dozen Democrats and then, 4 or 5 GOPers running. the same thing can happen here. Now, the primary is late in the calendar, right? It's in August. Is that correct?
It's on the first Tuesday of August is the primary
Okay.
election.
So as of now, have they recruited somebody, or are they in the process of recruiting like an AOC type to box you out?
I don't know. I mean, these are things that we find out once it's being publicly announced.
Got it.
So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Because you're running as an independent and you're obviously hostile to both major parties, as you should be. But if you win, though, you're likely, in my view, to be even more thorn of the side in the Democrats than you are in the GOP, since I'd imagine much of what you'd be doing, just as you did in Seattle on the city council, is sort of challenge incumbent Democrats to actually do some of the things that they pretend they want to do, like raise the minimum wage, secure renters' rights, universal health care, corporate tax increases. And do you want to talk a little bit about your strategy to win those gains in Seattle, where your adversaries were Democrats? In other words, you present a piece of legislation and you name and shame your colleagues into voting for it. That's a strategy you could bring to Washington, which would, of course, ruffle more feathers in the Democratic Party than even the Republican Party, since the Republicans are kind of assumed not to support any of those things in the first place.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, on a more overt level, it will be if we get elected to Congress, which we have a real shot to do, although it's extremely uphill, as we were just talking about. It will be present on an overt level. The first challenge and the principal challenge will be to the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party, especially the progressive Democrats, so self-described progressive Democrats, for them it will be an immediate challenge, immediate threat, because their whole MO, their whole operation is to say these things performatively. You know, like the Medicare for All bill has been brought forward 13 times, but they have no intention of ever bringing it to a vote, you know. And so many progressive Democrats have voted for the Iron Dome. So many Democrats who are trying to look progressive right now actually voted for the same bills that Adam Smith voted for, to send tens of billions of dollars for genocide in Gaza. But now the consciousness has shifted so dramatically against Israel and against genocide and imperialist war. It presents a real crisis for the Democratic Party. And so they're trying to address that crisis somehow. And if we get elected, that completely compounds their crisis of credibility a million times over, because if first of all, if I get elected, it would be the election of the first ever revolutionary socialist to the US Congress. Such a thing has never happened before. I mean, as far as the US capitalist class is concerned, you know, the billionaires, multimillionaires, the Wall Street guys, this is the stuff of nightmares. Having somebody like me get elected is the stuff of nightmares, because we have a solid track record that shows that we actually, you know, we run our campaigns on the basis of concrete demands. And then when we win office, if we do, we absolutely use those elected offices to build mass movements, to win victories, which is what we did in Seattle. And so just to give a concrete example, we won the nation's highest minimum wage. The minimum wage today in Seattle is $21.30 an hour. The national minimum wage, as we know, is still at a disgraceful $7.25. This is despite the Democratic Party each election year saying, oh, $15 an hour, I promise 15 and all that stuff. We also won the Amazon tax, which involved defeating billionaires like Jeff Bezos. So we have shown Jeff Bezos and the billionaires can be defeated by the working class. We defeated them to win the Amazon tax, which raises hundreds of millions of dollars every year for affordable housing. And the way we did that was by having a strategy that exposes the superficiality and the performativeness of the progressive Democrats, especially, who say that, oh, they care about the working class, but then they'll say, oh, we need one more robust analysis, we need studies, we need subcommittees. We can't do that right now. We can't alienate our business partners. I mean, this is the language they talk about. They use, you know, they'll talk about billionaires like these are our business partners. I mean, these are people who exploit and plunder the working class. And so we shine a light on all of that. And then just to give you another concrete example, we also use what we call a credible threat strategy, meaning when we brought forward the tax Amazon legislation, we didn't stop there. Obviously, we launched marches and rallies. We did a car caravan protest outside the Amazon campus because this was during COVID and everybody had to be safe. And so we found creative ways to do protests, but we didn't stop there. We also at the same time launched a Tax Amazon ballot initiative campaign, and we collected signatures for the ballot initiative petition, and we collected 30,000 signatures in 3 months at the rate of 10,000 signatures a month. That put real fear in the Chamber of Commerce and the Democrats because they could see that the Amazon tax is such a hugely popular demand. And this was during the George Floyd rebellion. I mean, it was hugely popular. They knew that we had real momentum. If they didn't carry out a vote, if they didn't vote yes on our legislation, that we had the momentum to go directly to the voters, and it forced their hand to concede. And so that's the kind of class struggle based fighting strategy that we know we can take to a national level if we were to win this election.
And you are on the ballot here. You tweeted this out yesterday. I'm excited to announce that our campaign is on the ballot for the U.S. Congress, running as an independent anti-war socialist against warmongering Democrat Adam Smith. And then you talk about some of your fundraising goals for the month of May and in the short term. So you've got $600,000 raised overall. I want to ask you a few more questions on a few more, I think, topics that I think you'd be great on. But just to wrap this segment here, where can people go and find out more about your campaign and help you get to those fundraising goals?
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking this. I hope people are able to go to kshamasawant.org, my first name, last name, .org. That's our campaign website. Please get involved. Please immediately make a donation. We released this news of being on the ballot at around noon or so yesterday. And before midnight, we had, I believe, 50 donations and we had $5,000. We had raised $5,000 already, even far below 24-hour period. And so that's the momentum that we have. So please don't wait. If you support our campaign, if you feel excited about it and you haven't donated yet, please make a donation right now. Even if it's a small donation, if you've donated already, make another donation, go to our website and do that. And I should say, this is a national campaign. We have donations from working class people from all 50 states and also from Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. We have people hosting Zoom house party fundraisers all the way from Hawaii to New York City. That's how much people understand that this is not a campaign for Washington State. This is a nationwide campaign, because if we can win this election platform, it will be a political earthquake in favor of the working class. And as I've said before, I've pledged that if I'm elected, I will turn my congressional inauguration into a mass rally in Washington, D.C. of 10,000 people and immediately use my office to launch movements to end all U.S. military aid to the Israeli state, to end all tech and weapons for genocide and imperialist war, and to win free healthcare for all funded by taxing the rich.
Excellent. So that is kshamasawant.org to get involved in those efforts. Okay, Kshama, so while I have you, I want to just do a couple of quick stories if you have some time. Okay, great. Awesome. Because in these times, which is a labor magazine here, posted this: South Carolinians wage May Day protest of the Israeli weapons factory in their backyard. Angela Washington stands on a busy road nestled in pine and live oak trees, shaking her fists as she shouts into a bullhorn. "We don't want you here," she yells in the direction of an Elbit America factory that was making powerful artillery Israel is using in its attacks on Lebanon. This is being used to kill women and children and orphans. Washington, an organizer with Tri-City Tenant Union, is one of about 75 protesters who gathered in Ladson, South Carolina to wage a May Day protest against Elbit America, a subsidiary of Elbit Systems, the largest weapons company in Israel. A local coalition, Elbit Out of South Carolina, has been waging weekly pickets against the company, but today is special. It's International Workers' Day, and protesters are connecting their campaign to the national call for no work, no school, no shopping put out by unions and community groups across the country. They don't want a company in their own backyard taking money out of local schools through tax breaks to make weapons being used in attacks on Lebanon, where Israel has killed more than 2,500 people since March 2nd, if you can believe that. Here are some pictures from the protest. Sarah Lazar from In These Times wrote the article here. Leonard Riley is a dock worker who loads and unloads ships, and he is both a member of International Longshoremen's Association 1422, a storied local, and a member of the union's board. He has gotten to know the protesters through their weekly flyering of his union hall, where he says they have opened his mind. I am concerned about worker unity, he tells me. We are navigating an era where there is so much separating of workers. We have to find a common thread. I don't agree with people being hurt by bombs. I don't agree with war. And we've seen protests like these around the country. Here, protesters push Portland to investigate firm that appears to supply drone tech to Israel. In New York City, City Hall boots Israel drone supplier from Brooklyn Navy Yard after Mamdani took office. Now, we covered this story on our show because it was indicative of the success of the grassroots movement. It seems like what happened there is there were these organizers that were pressuring City Hall to evict an IDF drone supplier from the offices at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And because Mamdani won, they knew it would be a political headache for him if they didn't end the contract. So they did. And I remember one of the things I said at the time was that if you can replicate those movements in cities and towns across the country, large and small, like here in South Carolina, you can box out these weapons suppliers. And so, you know, you are an organizer of workers. You have talked about the need for the working class to unite around certain big ticket items like universal health care, like in this case, an urgent need for a resurgent anti-war movement. What is your reaction to these small protests, and how do we make them bigger, and how do we make them grow more widespread?
First of all, this is incredibly important. And the message, for example, the quote from Leonard, I think from the Longshore Workers Union, what he said is absolutely fundamental to the labor movement and to the working class, which is really, he didn't use this word, but it's a message of internationalism, meaning you cannot really fight for yourself and your co-workers if you have a parochial point of view about, oh, what can we win?
Right.
As opposed to our rights, our lives, our living standards, our vision of any type of decent society, all of that being intricately interlinked with the fates and the lives of all working class people, and also the corollary of that, which is also extremely important and perhaps the most important, which is that as workers in America, we have far more in common with workers in Mexico and Argentina and India and Russia and Ukraine, you know, working class everywhere. We have far more in common with them, despite the differences that we have on ethnicity, nationality, language, culture, all of that. We have far more in common with other working people than we have with the billionaires in our own nation, even if they might have the same skin color. And so the message of internationalism is super crucial. And it's not in, I mean, I don't want people to misunderstand it as some sort of altruistic concept. Absolutely, it is based in compassion and fellow feeling and empathy, which as we've seen from the way ordinary people help one another in crises, is absolutely integral to humanity. And in fact, it comes out in the best of ways. But it's more than that. It is a recognition, and this is where a Marxist understanding comes in. It's a recognition that it is impossible to fight for ourselves unless we link that fight to a broader struggle for our rights as workers and against capitalism itself. And so every single thing that's happening, like, for example, the South Carolina protest against, and it's an ongoing movement against Elbit systems, that is really crucial, because they're recognizing that the only way we can win the resources that we need for our impoverished communities is if we also put a stop to this warmongering, profiteering, and they're making the link between the two things, which is what we absolutely need to do. And as far as these protests are concerned, I mean, I'm really, I feel such hope when I see all this ordinary people fighting back. We saw that on January 23rd in Minneapolis. I mean, just the mass protests that happened. But I think attached to that is also the sober question, which is what you asked at the end, which is that how do we grow these protests into something that can actually change history? How can we build the anti-war movement, for example, into something that can actually stop the genocide, that can actually defeat Trumpism and both parties that are carrying out these just bloody wars everywhere, including in the Middle East. And we cannot forget the ongoing genocide in Sudan either, which is something that is being perpetrated by the Saudi Arabian ruling class, which is in bed with the American imperialist and the capitalist class. And so all of this are tied together, and the only way we can win this is if there are massive breakthroughs. Because look, again, this is a sober message. People don't want to hear this, but this is the truth. The truth is that barely 10% of American workers are unionized, at the same time that the popularity of unionization and unions is sky high. It's so much higher in our lifetime than it has ever been before. But that hasn't translated into massive union victories, let alone any labor movement victory against the war or against ICE terror. That hasn't happened. And the big roadblock, the single biggest roadblock to all of this is the fact that the overwhelming majority of the labor leadership subscribes to what I call business unionism, meaning they've made their peace with capitalism. That means it translates into making peace with the bosses. That is rejecting the fact that you have to go into a militant fight back against the bosses. That also means business unionism also means being at peace with the two parties of the capitalist class, Democrats and Republicans. And so it's no surprise that all these labor leaders are tied to the Democratic Party. None of them is going, there are some exceptions, but they're not the most prominent labor leaders. The most prominent labor leaders are very much in alliance with the Democratic Party. And then on the other hand, you have Sean O'Brien, who's off the deep end, trying to make overtures towards Trump and the Republican right wing. So this is the barrier. And the only way we can overcome this barrier is if we have some breakthrough victories. A few militant workers here and there is not going to be enough. We need like a sort of a labor parting of the waters. And those kinds of breakthrough victories are needed. And obviously, our election campaign is not the only kind of breakthrough victory, but it is one example, and it's a concrete example this year of a breakthrough victory like that. And what I mean by that is, if you look at how we won the $15 an hour struggle, in Seattle, and which became the nation's highest minimum wage, is not because labor leaders supported us. They were actually the opposite. The labor leaders, when I first ran in Seattle in 2013, they supported my opponent, who was the incumbent Democrat who had voted against paid sick leave for workers. But we brought forward $15 an hour as our flagship demand in our campaign. We mobilized union rank and file, and they became really excited. And after we won the election, it set the stage for winning 15. And it forced the hand of the business unionist labor leadership to become part of the fight, because otherwise they would have looked like complete jerks, for when there's such a popular demand and they're standing on the sidelines, or even worse yet, opposing it. So that's the kind of big breakthrough victories we need, where it will force the business unionist leadership to stand with the rank and file and really put forward ideas like general strike. I mean, the idea of general strike has become so popular, but what did the labor leadership do in Minneapolis? They not only did not organize the general strike or any type of strike action, they instead circulated no strike clause language from the union contract to their rank and file members, saying, hey, be careful, don't go on strike, because there's no strike language in the contract. And by the way, can I just end by saying, how the fuck do you become a union leader and accept a no strike clause in the contract? The strike is the only real weapon that working class people have to shut down the profit machine and extract victories from the bosses. And yet we are in this situation. It is a dire situation, because at this moment, the vast majority of union contracts have no strike clauses, and nobody even talks about this. That's why I'm saying that overcoming the business unionist labor leadership is the single biggest task that we have, and we need a reckoning in the labor movement. We cannot tinker around the edges.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. Of course. And I think that, one of the reasons why these kinds of actions are so important, even if you say, well, they're relatively small here, just looks like a few dozen, people, what I find is that the main obstacle to working class solidarity is despair. It is the fact that workers seem so beaten down. You know, I worked on the floor of a UPS warehouse during COVID for a while, and I quit because it looked like the union was going to jerk me around. It was so chaotic during COVID. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. Like I was told the books are closed, so I quit. And then 3 weeks later, I get a fucking invite packet from the Teamsters. I'm like, yeah, you guys know I quit, right? It was chaos. But anyway, long story short, my experience there was such that I just kind of felt that even the unionized members felt it would be kind of awkward or uncalled for them to actually demand more from management. And I think that these kinds of events where you go out and you meet people and you sort of break the ice and get used to seeing people who actually feel like they are justified in making these demands. I think that is critically important. I think that builds morale at an exponential pace. You know, you meet one person 1 week, then those 2 people meet 4 people the next week, and then 8 people, and then 16, and it grows from there. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and by no means can we underestimate the importance of smaller actions. My point was that these actions are being organized by the rank and file of the working class, not by the leadership of the labor movement. And in fact, many of the activists in this Elbit Out Now campaign, they're probably not even in unions. They are activists, working class activists in that movement who understand that this needs to be done. And so we absolutely cannot underestimate. In fact, the protests in Minneapolis against ICE terror, even though they were not a general strike, they were so massive. And again, it was the rank and file that was leading it and also organizing it. That was actually really potent. And even if it was more so performative, it did put pause on Trump's ICE project, and it really did force him to say, okay, we'll start wrapping up Operation Metro Surge. And again, we should not kid ourselves that it has stopped. But the point is that putting that type of scare on the White House, that is a hard task. And these protesters have done that. And so that shows the power of protest. And I totally agree with you. It is an antidote to despair, and we do need that. It really shows that protests do work and can work. And we need, the question is, how do we build them into a crescendo that can actually make real fundamental shifts?
Absolutely. All right, I got one more story I'd like to do with you. This is a quick one, but this is a story about a topic that I really think is going to be one of 3 big issues of our day. If you remember a few months ago, there was this article that went viral about how we are in that pre-AI revolution period that was kind of like the pre-COVID period, where you're hearing chirps about this virus in China for a few months, and then boom, one day you're locked down and you can't go anywhere, and this is your life for the time being, or for the indefinite future, I should say, not for the time being at the time. And it's going to control your whole life from morning till night, and forget about any sense of normalcy that you knew before. That AI is going to be that thing. It's going to hit all at once. And we're in the sort of chirping phase of it. And this came to a head this week in Utah. Hundreds of Utahns file to block Kevin O'Leary's proposed massive data center campus over water concerns. Now, a more perfect union was apparently in the building a couple nights ago. Maybe this was last night. Kevin O'Leary's massive data center was approved by a county commission in Utah last night. At 40,000 acres, it would be, I mean, think of this, 2.5 times the size of Manhattan. The commission approved the proposal despite opposition from hundreds of locals. So things got a little rowdy here.
All of this is false. Then why won't they let people talk? Why won't they let us ask questions? It's false. This is not real information. And we sit here like it's okay. It's a charade. It's a charade. It's false.
So you talk about issues that unite workers of all political stripes and all cultural persuasions. I think in this time of genocide and war, an anti-war agenda is certainly part of that. But looking at it with some objectivity, this seems to me like the key organizing issue moving forward, because it seems like just about all working class people are against this. They all see this as a real threat, not just to their communities in terms of water and environmental impact, or even in terms of their, making ends meet at the end of each month, because these, of course, drive up energy prices. But this seems to be a real threat to the working class's way of life. And there seems to be mass consciousness around this. What do you think about this? You're a terrific organizer of workers. Do you see unprecedented potential in this issue? Because I kind of do. I kind of feel like this is the next thing that's going to organize a mass labor movement.
First of all, as far as me and my organization, Workers Strike Back, is concerned, it is not a theoretical concept for us. What we think about this, our members have been involved in the fight against data centers. I had not seen that clip from Utah. I have to say, it really made me feel great to see the community there.
Anything that makes Mormons angry is that's an inspiring sight to see angry Mormons. Yeah,
it really shows, and it actually. That whole site, that the clip that you played, is also a reminder that working class consciousness is not etched in stone. So it is the opposite of static. It actually evolves, and it can sometimes evolve on a dime. And AI, I think, is one of those issues where it's not something that's been coming for years. Yes, it has in general, but as far as working people's consciousness, if you look at if you do a timeline of the evolution of the consciousness, it has been almost instantaneous, and it really shows how much potential there is to organize on many of these issues against the capitalist class. And as far as the importance of this issue, I completely agree. This is a hugely important issue. It is a hugely unifying issue, and it is an issue that is energizing and politically activating working class people who otherwise aren't really politicized. This is happening in many of the semi-urban, almost sort of the cusp of rural versus urban, that those areas where they are these companies, these billionaires are trying to find, for them, it's a question of finding as cheap of land as possible, but also where water connections and electricity and all of the services that they need to run these data centers are easily accessible. And so these communities are fighting back, and many of those people may not agree with us on other things, but it is our obligation as organizers, as Marxists, to go to where they are and help them organize, which is exactly what we've been doing. To be specific, Workers Strike Back members in Rochester, Minnesota, and Peoria, Illinois. I mean, whoever talks about Peoria and Rochester, it's always about New York or Seattle or Boston, big cities that are in conversation as far as working class movements are concerned. But there are movements against data centers there, and our members are part of it. We didn't initiate those movements, but we are helping those movements, and we are part of it. And in fact, in Peoria, just a few weeks ago, it's not in Peoria, but there's a smaller city near Peoria called Pekin. And so this movement against the data centers that were going to be put in place in Pekin, they reached a real height, and hundreds of them mobilized to City Hall in Pekin, and they spoke up, and we did what you just mentioned earlier, the naming and shaming. People were really angry, like in the Utah clip. People were really angry, and they're just disgusted that these politicians are so in the pocket of the billionaires that they would do this, even though there is so much evidence to show that this would be devastating for the water and electricity and other basic resources of these communities. And so people went there with utter disgust, and Workers' Strike Back members were, among them. And that action was so powerful that a few days later, some of the council members were forced to come out publicly and say they felt the heat so badly that they issued their own press releases saying, I'm not going to be voting yes on this data center anymore. And I don't know, it remains to be seen what the final fate of this data center will be, but it shows that there is enormous power in this type of organizing, and data centers and AI are absolutely a crucial issue we cannot lose sight of. We cannot be living in this sort of, what I would call the blue bubble disease, where you're just stuck in, your vision is just limited to very political activists in very urbanized areas. You have to understand that working people everywhere are angry, and there are specific issues around which they're willing to organize. I wouldn't counterpose this issue versus the war issue, because in reality, the wars and genocide are also a huge issue that are mobilizing people. And the statistics are deadly. I mean, Republican voters under the age of 50, a majority of them being opposed to Israel. I mean, who thought that was going to happen? But it's happened.
Yes. Yes. And, this just also shows how useless and unserious the Democratic Party is. Janet Mills now dropped out of the Senate race. She's the governor of Maine. She just vetoed a bill. This seems to be the straw that broke the camel's back here. She vetoed a bill that passed in the Maine House to ban new data centers. You finally have an issue if you're the Democratic Party. Democrats have been complaining for as long as I've been alive that people don't care about the environment enough. Oh, people are, dismissive of global warming and climate change and all this. You finally have an issue where people's concerns about the environment overlap with their concerns about their wallet. Because generally in the public mind, there's this idea that, well, yeah, we wish we could take better care of the environment, but taking better care of the environment would cost money. And so we're going to choose our pocketbook over stewardship of Mother Earth. Finally, you have an issue where those two are hand in hand, where you can protect the environment while bringing your energy costs down. And yet they barely want to touch it. She vetoes a bill that would ban new data centers. And of course, the National Party puts out a milquetoast platform. Well, we're going to make sure everybody gets a fair deal. Yeah, like people haven't heard that a million times in the past. It's such an opportunity on top of the environmental issues and the pocketbook issues. It also seems to me to be finally kind of a culture war issue that can play into the left's advantage, because as a parent of 3, this encroachment of AI makes it very difficult for me to really know what direction to point my children in, since I don't know what skills and talents are going to be of any use to them in 10 years. It's impossible to know. It creates tremendous uncertainty for parents and for families. And so this is just a home run issue where just a moratorium on these fucking data centers in order to protect the environment, in order to make our lives more affordable, and in order to protect our very way of life from a robot invasion is just like, it's a fastball right down the middle in all of these issues. And yet politicians don't want to touch it. Like, if that's not an example of how bought and paid for our system is by the very oligarchs who want these data centers, I don't know what is. So it seems that there's real opportunity there. I'm sorry to monologue, but it's just one of these things that's so maddening when you see the overwhelming sentiment against these things, and yet that does not translate to the halls of power at all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't apologize for monologuing. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it's absolutely true. And in fact, as you said, this really helps expose that the Democratic Party does not represent the needs of the environment. They don't actually represent any of these issues, all of them put together, that are in the interest of the working class. Because the reality of the science is that we will either have working people's lives go to shit and the environment go to crap at the same time, or we are both, all of it is going down together, or we're going to be able to protect both of them together on the basis of worker organizing and socialism, not on the basis of capitalism. On the basis of capitalism, everything is going to go to crap. But they present it as the corporate media, the two parties, they present it as if it's one or the other, and both parties are guilty of that. The Republican Party is guilty of, what they do is say they poo-poo the environmental concerns by saying, well, don't you care about your pocketbook? The Democratic Party says, appears really condescending to working class people, saying, how can you worry about your pocketbook when the planet is on fire? The way it's posed for working class people is like, okay, then fuck you, I don't care about this because I'm barely surviving myself, I'm barely paying my rent and putting food on the table. But that counterposing of those two issues is completely misleading, and they do it deliberately because neither of those two parties actually represents the working class or any aspect of what's in the interest of the working class. And we have to be clear, the Democratic Party is absolutely not the left. They are not the left. They along with the Republicans are, those two parties are the two most powerful parties of global capitalism. And in fact, the other aspect of why they don't want to even I mean, your question is really well taken, in the sense that even for crass electoral concerns in a crucial election year, how come the Democratic Party doesn't even just performatively say it? I mean, like a lot of people asked when Kamala Harris lost to Trump, like, why didn't she even at least lie through her teeth? Say, I'm going to do something about $15 an hour.
Right.
Yeah, I'll consider universal healthcare. Just fucking lie. But the reason they don't do it is because if they did, then it raises the expectations from the working class of them. It puts more pressure on them. And the last thing they want is pressure on them. And also, even further than that, they don't want working people to win even minimal victories. Why? Because if working people win even smaller victories on individual data centers, that actually will empower them. They will, all these working class people in Pekin and Rochester and in Utah, if they win victories on the data center, they're not going to stop there, because it injects, it's the opposite of despair. It injects enthusiasm and understanding that, oh, wow, we just won. We could win something else. The Democrats and Republicans don't want that message.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Could not agree more. Well, Kshama, it was great to talk to you again. It had been too long. KshamaSawant.org is the campaign site. Any events coming up that you want people to know about, or where else can they find you to check out more about the campaign?
Yes. On Saturday, May 9th, we are having a town hall here in Seattle, which is part of Seattle that's in Congressional District 9. The topic of the town hall is Fund Healthcare, Not War. So if you're anywhere within driving or public transportation distance of Seattle, please join us there in person. It'll also be live streamed, so if you can RSVP on our website for that event, you can find it there. Maybe Due Dissidents, if you're able to live stream it, if it's not conflicting with your show, that will be fantastic as well. And please also sign up to volunteer with our campaign. It really doesn't matter where you live, because we have constant need of data entry and phone banking help that can be done remotely. And so many of our volunteers who have phone banked, in fact, people in Peoria, for example, have been phone banking from Rochester, these people who are fighting against the data centers, and they've reported that their phone banking sessions are actually really empowering for them, because they end up talking to other working people and they have great conversations. So please join us. And we also have young people from different cities across the nation coming here for smaller, for a week, or some of them are spending their entire summer break with us, coming out here, staying here for a few weeks or months and canvassing with us. So if you're able to do that, that's even better.
All right. Excellent. KshamaSawant.org is the site. Kshama, thanks so much for joining. Please give Calvin my best, and good luck with everything out there. And yes, we will definitely keep in touch.
Thanks so much, and my best to your family.
Okay. Thank you, Kshama. Have a great night. Bye-bye. All right, that's Kshama Sawant, everybody. Round of applause for Kshama. Thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to talk to Kshama, who's the real deal, real winner, very results-oriented person. So KshamaSawant.org. We have a couple horses in a couple races this year at the Due Dissidents show. Let's go to some super chats and some Rumble rants, but let's also put our little scroll up on the screen here. So, folks, if you would like to support the show and you're figuring out how, the best way to, by far, would be to become a member at duedissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. Membership starts at just $5 a month, and perks include your name up in lights here on the patron scroll. You also get call-in access to all of our post-show Q&As, which happen every Sunday. You get 2 bonus shows every month. One is an extended post game where we do bonus segments and take Q&A calls from our patrons. The other is, of course, Film Club with our friends at Right Brain TV. We last did our presentation on the landmark George Carlin special live at USC in 1977. And then Russ returns this month. So this month's Film Club will be featuring the one Russ Dobular, who will be back next week. So count down the days, everybody. Russ makes his triumphant return to the show next week. 3 Tom the Bomb from New York City. Cumpleaños feliz to Karl Marx, born on Cinco de Mayo. The bell tolls for thee. The American Communist Party is growing fast with chapters across the country. Get on board. Join now at acp.us. Thank you, 3 Tom the Bomb. Kauai Cowboy says DeepSeek names the IDF at fault, citing ICC evidence. Oh, wow. Look at that. AI that actually knows its facts. Topher 10100, Salem Media, in short for Jerusalem Media. Interesting. Thank you, Topher. Appreciate that. Is that true, or is that just your quip? Because it's a good quip, but it also would make sense. RFK Jr. I went skinny dipping in a river in Chernobyl to prove my immune system is fucking impenetrable. I am the hazmat suit. I could absorb an atomic bomb like Superman in The Dark Knight Returns. There you go. Good one. Ravid Laz, appreciate it. Ravid Laz says Randy Fine is so fat his gut enters the room 5 seconds before he does. Ha! Good one. Nocturnal Human, why does Brad look like a baby with with a beard? Yeah, he's definitely, look, not to disparage the fine people of Florida, but he definitely has that Florida man look. You know what I mean. Whether you want to admit it or not. That is one Florida man, that Brad Parscale. I don't think I'm out of line for saying that. I think facts are facts, and that's a fact. Eric Cousseau says, I'd rather get my Israeli propaganda from hot young dancing IDF girls. Thank you, Eric Cousseau. Beats Brad Pascal, that's for sure. Amazon Labor Union Chris Smalls arrested at Met Gala. Oh, really? Did that happen last night? That's interesting. I did not hear that. I don't know what's going on. I mean, who the hell knows? It's not like I suspect foul play or anything, but I feel like the X feeds are just like so incredibly selective now. Like you click on one thing and it just populates your thing. So by the way, Yankee announcer John Sterling, the great John Sterling, passed away, and I've been clicking on a couple of John Sterling tributes on Twitter. And now my whole feed is like baseball. Like now it's not showing me the news anymore. So I have to go back on the app and click some news headlines to get the news back in the headline. But yeah, John Sterling, rest in peace. One of the greats in broadcasting. People made fun of him a lot because of his like theatrical presentation, but I always thought that was great. I listened to a lot of Yankee games in the car growing up because we were driving around a lot as a family. And he called an amazing 28% of all Yankee games ever played, 47.5% of all Yankee playoff games ever played. He called every Mariano Rivera pitch and every Derek Jeter at bat. Just an amazingly prolific guy. And so, a lot of my influences getting into podcasting were radio guys because I listen to radio a lot. So rest in peace to John Sterling. I know Virtuoso out there will like the John Sterling shout out. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but hey, sometimes we just say what we got to say because it's the right thing to say. That's right. Andy Gardner, Keaton, guess what? Rogan just had venture capitalist Chamath Palihapitiya on his show. I know you like him. I like Chamath Palihapitiya. Is that true? Am I a fan of his? That I don't know. Just kidding. Still working on getting Whitney Webb, though. Thank you, Andy Gardner. Brad Gilbert says it's a selected uniparty. No one is elected. Owners want AI. Owners get AI. We, the people, need to show we don't give a fuck about the owner's political system. BS. That's right. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. All right, folks. We got fine weather says legit beard going on there, Keaton. You know, honestly, and this is gonna make me sound even more Jewy than I am. I can't find my electric razor. That's why I haven't shaved yet. It's packed somewhere and I can't find it. And talk about inflation. I thought about replacing it because I'm like, all right, it was a $25 razor. How long am I gonna let the beard and the neck beard grow out because I'm too fucking stubborn to spring for a new razor? So I'm in Walmart the other day where I bought the original razor. They don't have that original razor for $25 anymore. Now you have to get a more expensive razor. It's like the cheapest electric razor. It's like $40 fucking dollars. $40. Used to be able to get one for $25 like 3 months ago. Now they want $40. Like, I don't want to spend $40 only to like find the razor I lost when I unpacked the boxes. Like 40 is a lot. Like, you know, there are certain things where like, all right, I'm not gonna like whatever. I'm not gonna not brush my teeth for a week because I can't find my toothbrush. Like I'll spring for, you know, you $5 for a box of toothbrushes. Obviously you buy the new toothbrushes. But you know, I feel like I'm not gonna spend $40 on a razor only to find the old one the next day. But of course, the more I hold out, the more the beard grows out. I may have to cave. And I am not going back to manual razors. I will be an electric razor man forever. It's just so much easier. You don't cut yourself. You don't have the mess of the shaving cream. It's light years better. It takes so much less time, an electric razor. So I don't know. I'm divided. I would feel like a big schmuck if I bought an electric razor for $40 unnecessarily. That's like a lot to just spend at a convenience. So I'm holding out. Hopefully I'll find mine. But if I don't find it by Thursday, I'm going to have to just bite the bullet. That's the plan as of now. But it is something that's been on my mind. I've been wanting to shave for the last, really the better part, of the last week, but just haven't found a razor. I don't know where the hell it is. Race car, thanks for the $20 super sticker. Appreciate that very, very much. We're at 939 in the like column. Please, let's smash that like button. Please, let's smash that subscribe button. Please, let's smash that follow button over on Rumble. Thanks very much, everybody, for being here. We got one more segment left on the day, and this is one that I really want to do. It is getting to be graduation time. The end of the college semester is upon us, and so University of Michigan professor Derek Peterson tweets out, yesterday I had the pleasure of addressing the graduates at University of Michigan commencement. I spoke about the long history of student activism, which has moved the university towards justice. Here's a video. It has caused a furor on social media and in the UM administration. So the whole speech is about 6 minutes long. We're not going to play the whole thing. We're going to play the part that got him in trouble. I bet you can all guess what that was about. Let's take a look.
For the pro-Palestinian student activists.
Sing for the pro-Palestinian student activists. So he was, going down a long list of pioneers and trailblazers, including women at the university, including Jewish people at the university. But of course, he took time to give a positive shout out to the pro-Palestine protesters. Look at the ovation he gets when he says this.
Sing for the pro-Palestinian student activists.
By far the biggest ovation of the speech, by the way.
Who have, over these past 2 years, opened our hearts to the injustice and inhumanity of Israel's war in Gaza.
Big ovation.
The greatness of this institution does not only rest on the shoulders and on the accomplishments of our student athletes, who deserve all the congratulations we can offer them. But the greatness of this university rests also on the courage and the conviction of student activists who have pushed this university down the path toward justice. It is to them that we can rightly sing, "Hail to the victors valiant, hail to the conquering heroes, hail to Michigan, the leaders and the best." Congratulations to all of you who are graduating today. Go Blue.
So that was the extent of it. Gave a shout out to the anti-genocide protesters. And for that, he, I guess, is a contender for Anti-Semite of the Week at Stop Anti-Semitism. So they made this video go viral. At today's University of Michigan graduation, Professor Derek Peterson thanked anti-Israel protesters for 2 years of campus chaos. Turning a commencement speech into a political rant like this is grounds for termination. Sickening. So they're going to try and get this guy fired now. Leo Terrell, Trump's anti-Semitism henchman, czar, whatever you want to call him, says, shame on the University of Michigan. We'll see you soon. You can bet the house on it. Wow. So are they actually going to apply pressure to the University of Michigan to get this guy fired for saying just what he said? That was the beginning and the end of the mention, by the way. Didn't get any deeper than that. Corey Walker says the University of Michigan is about 20% Jewish, and many of the top donors are Jewish, such as Stephen Ross. Low-status academics don't understand this and are willing to endanger the institution's long-term viability just to signal to pro-terror activists. Wow. So he's saying you should think about, we know this is an institution of higher learning and open debate, but you should think before sharing those ideas because there's a lot of Jewish money at this college, and I wouldn't want that to dry up by saying the wrong thing. Scott Turkin says this is beyond shameful. Derek Peterson should be fired immediately. Hate should not, that was hate? Hate should not persist anywhere, but especially at one of the world's most prestigious universities. Michigan has long been a popular destination for Jewish students. There's a thriving Hillel, Jewish fraternities and sororities, courses on religion. This asshole spit in the face of that proud history in this despicable display. I'm ashamed of my alma mater today. This is hate. Hate, he says. Play the video one more time, just the first part of it.
Sing for the pro-Palestinian student activists. Who have, over these past 2 years, opened our hearts to the injustice and inhumanity of Israel's war in Gaza.
Once again, that was it. That was it. That's hate. That's hate. Unbelievable. Joe Walsh, who has no kings in his profile, big lib here. Fucking despicable, he says. I just showed you the video twice. That's despicable. Unbelievable. Really, I mean, they find new ways to surprise. This shouldn't be surprising anymore. And I guess intellectually, like, it's not. Like, it's nothing you don't expect in your mind, but it's just kind of amazing to see it every time it happens. How, again, these are the people who campaigned against wokeness, against censorship, against cancel culture, against safe spaces, against snowflakeism. And that triggers a meltdown. It's just extraordinary. These people are just the biggest fucking hypocrites to ever walk the earth. They really are. They really are. It's just absolutely appalling. Dropsite tweets out, University of Michigan President Domenico Grasso is apologizing after a commencement speech by the faculty senate chair yesterday, praised pro-Palestinian student activists for helping open people's hearts to the injustice and inhumanity suffered by Palestinians in the U.S.-backed Israeli war on Gaza. That's right. That's right. What a disgrace. What a disgrace. Here is the statement put out by the head of the university. At today's spring commencement ceremony, our outgoing faculty senate chair made remarks regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict that were hurtful and insensitive to many members of our community. How? How? He didn't say Israel doesn't have the right to exist. He didn't say Israel doesn't have the right to defend it. Like, he didn't even say any of those things, and I don't disagree with any of those things, even if he had said them. But he was extraordinarily mild. He didn't approach anything controversial. He said it was an inhumane war. That's hurtful. That's hurtful and insensitive to many members of our community. We regret the pain this has caused on a day devoted to celebration and accomplishment. For this, the university apologizes. I'm going to play it one more time just so you hear the ovation in the crowd when he said this. This was by far the best received part of the entire speech.
For the pro-Palestinian student activists.
Listen to all that pain he caused. That's all the pain he caused.
Who have, over these past 2 years, opened our hearts to the injustice and inhumanity of Israel's war in Gaza.
In Gaza, once again. Loudest ovation of anything he said.
The greatness.
Easily the loudest ovation of anything he said. All the pain it caused. Pain to who? Pain to the Stop Anti-Semitism X handle? Went over great in the crowd. The faculty senate chair deviated from the remarks he had shared before the ceremony. The chair's comments were inappropriate and do not represent our institutional position, nor do they represent the diversity of views across our entire faculty. This gets worse. Just wait for it. Everyone in our community is entitled to their own views, but this was neither the time nor the place. Remember that. Commencement is a time of celebration, recognition, and unity. The chair's remarks were expected to be congratulatory, not a platform for personal or political expression. Introducing such commentary in this setting was inappropriate and did not align with the purpose of the occasion. In the coming weeks, I will work with university leadership to review and refine future commencement programming, i.e., we're going to pre-screen and pre-censor commencement speeches from now on, lest anyone say that Israel's war on Gaza is inhumane. The horror of that statement. Make no mistake, we will not allow a 30-second soundbite to tear down the goodwill that so many of our campus have worked to build. Once again, people loved that part of the speech. You heard it. I played it for you 3 times. That was the most popular part of the speech. A 30-second soundbite's going to tear down the goodwill. That was the highlight of the speech. Together, we have made Michigan a welcoming, safe, and inclusive community, one that we can be proud of, reflects our values, and serves as a model for other institutions around the world. That work continues now and always. To be sure, the world has injustices. Is that right? Nice of you to say. Nice of you to admit. The only way we can address them is to work together and not create more divisiveness. Domenico Grasso, president. What a pathetic statement. What a fucking shit stain that guy is. This is the same campus, by the way, that made news a couple years ago. I think we even covered this. Maybe it was part of a larger segment on graduation protests. But protesters disrupt commencement ceremony at where? University of Michigan's. This is May of 2004. Same venue, looks like the football stadium there. There were a lot of student protesters in the crowd that day, not all of whom were graduating, some of whom were probably graduating this past week.
A day to celebrate the achievements of University of Michigan graduates disrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters.
We will not stop, we will not rest.
It's the most recent instance of a protest movement that has swept across campuses nationwide in recent weeks.
It's something on the University of Michigan campus we have been following for weeks. Weeks ago, students set up an encampment on campus to protest the war in the Middle East. We showed you this scene from last night at the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, their commencement ceremony. Police broke up a large group of protesters there at Hill Auditorium. It seems like that was a sign for things to come because today protesters made their voices heard in the Big House. A group of students stood up during commencement and began chanting and holding up signs. Jacqueline Franson spent the day on campus and she joins us now with more.
All right, we don't need to see any more of that. Free Palestine. You get the point. The point is the evidence here seems to be mounting that his speech went over extraordinarily well at the college and that the vast majority of students at the college were receptive to that message. In fact, they were probably craving that message if this is any evidence of that. There have been mass pro-Palestine protest activity at this campus for the past couple of years. We can safely assume that many who took part in this protest 2 years ago were graduating this past week and were among the thousands of people clapping and yelling words of encouragement when that part of the speech came up. So who exactly is the university leadership protecting here? Certainly not the students. The students are overwhelmingly in favor of what the professor said, which of course makes it, cowardly is to put it nicely. University of Michigan blasted after apologizing for commencement speaker's praise of pro-Palestine students. Common Dreams article by Stephen Prager here. The University of Michigan has had sitting members of Congress and other political leaders serve as commencement speakers for decades. So remember when the president said, well, this is not a platform for your political views. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. They've had political people speak in the past, as this is going to lay out in great detail. President Lyndon B. Johnson famously used the ceremony in 1964 to introduce Americans to his Great Society agenda, which he said would demand an end to poverty and racial injustice. President George H.W. Bush used the forum to tout his foreign policy accomplishments and rail against political correctness on university campuses. Just last year, Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat from Michigan, served as commencement speaker and warned that public discourse was being defined by fear under the second Trump administration, in part because of activists being punished for their political beliefs and speech. In a statement to CBS News Detroit, Peterson responded to the backlash and the university's response. Okay, before we read that part of it, they just showed you. Last year, they had a Democratic politician come on and basically make an anti-Trump speech. So when this liar puts out in his piece here that, this is no place for politics, nonsense. Yet you invited a Democratic senator to make a partisan speech last year. What, you think people are not going to remember that? People are not going to report on that? Okay, so here is Peterson's response, the professor who made the controversial, divisive speech. Here is his reaction to the backlash. It should not be controversial to have one's heart open to the inhumanity and injustice of Israel's war in Gaza, which is what I credited activists with doing, he said. Having an open heart to other people's suffering is a fundamental human virtue. It is a quality that I hope we teach our students, whatever their political posture might be. Peterson said he was mystified by the response to his speech. I have, like many of us here in Michigan, been convicted by the evidence of human suffering in Gaza, and I credit my awareness of that to pro-Palestinian activists. On a day meant to honor students for their accomplishments, I thought it important that we would honor the student activists who have, over the course of time, pushed the institution towards justice. Yes, he was connecting that to the broader theme of the speech, which was an homage to the University of Michigan's history of activism. And the other examples were not controversial, just this one. What do you know? The idea that graduation should be apolitical is ridiculous, Peterson added. Michigan is not a finishing school for polite young men and women. Our students are not wilting flowers. They have just finished their degrees at the foremost public university in the country. They can handle controversy. So here is Lara Friedman, who runs some kind of pro-Arab advocacy group. I should have noted it down, but I forgot to put it in the slideshow. So sorry, Lara. But the entire Speak No Criticism of Israel industry is erupting in outrage and demanding retribution for a history professor's speech at the University of Michigan graduation. Listen to the whole superb speech to grasp what is happening here. A demand for a complete Israel exception to free speech. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And this is a broader issue than just the University of Michigan in this recent example. Qasim Rashid has a Substack. He wrote this article here. Universities are enabling America's press freedom collapse. What happened to Professor Peterson is part of a rapidly accelerating national pattern that should alarm every American who believes in free expression, regardless of where they stand on any particular political question. Commencement ceremonies at several universities have undergone a post-October 7th overhaul, with some students saying their free speech rights are being suppressed. There will be no live student speakers at CUNY School of Law or at NYU school-specific ceremonies after former students gave speeches that were fiercely critical of Israel. So they're just doing away with the live speeches altogether. These are supposed to be institutions of learning, institutions of discourse, institutions of debate, of expression, ostensibly of influence on public policy. Whatever happened to the leaders of tomorrow? Well, you can't be a leader of tomorrow if we don't trust that you're going to say the wrong thing about Israel. So you know what? We're shutting the whole thing down. No one gets to speak. Pretty soon, there won't even be graduation ceremonies. They'll just email you a PDF file of your diploma or your degree. We have to shut that down lest we risk somebody saying the wrong thing about Israel. Think of what a radical step that is, to do away with student speakers because you're afraid of their opinions. How disgusting is that? How fraudulent is that? How exposed are these universities for being tools of capitalism and tools of empire? The fact that they would silence their entire student body over fear that someone's going to say the wrong thing. The restrictions have prompted an ongoing lawsuit brought by CUNY law students who allege violations of their First Amendment rights. We have our voice taken away in what's supposed to be our biggest moment, said CUNY law student government president. Exactly. You pay God knows how much money to go to the school. In NYU's case, I mean, you're paying out your ass. And the day that you're supposed to be celebrated for your accomplishments, you're not allowed to speak. Whose accomplishment is it then? I think you have to ask yourself that. Who's really celebrating your graduation? What is your graduation from these institutions a tool of? If they're not going to let you speak, then you're not the one being celebrated. They're the ones celebrating you absorbing yourself into their system. That's what it is. It's an occasion for the rulers. It's an occasion of celebration for the owners, because they have now funneled all of your sentiment into their system, and your job hunt starts tomorrow. And so don't step out of line. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. And they're making it clear as day. This has nothing to do with you becoming an enlightened member of society. This is all about funneling you into an economic system. It just couldn't be more obvious. Let's go to the next slide here. NYU will no longer allow live student speeches at school-level commencement ceremonies, instead requiring remarks to be pre-recorded and approved in advance. The change follows controversy over a 2025 commencement speech, by student Logan Rozos, who accused Israel of committing genocide, prompting the university to withhold his diploma. Read that again. We will. A university withheld a student's diploma for a commencement speech because that student called out genocide. Columbia University, which was at the center of the pro-Palestinian student movement, canceled its university-wide commencement altogether in 2024. I remember that. We covered that extensively here on the show. And so that is what higher education reveals itself to be when you actually use your education to come to the wrong conclusion. And, you know, Russ wrote this whole article about this right after October 7th, about how, you know, these universities steep students in these anti-colonial theories. And then they react negatively when they put those teachings into practice. And the reason for this is very obvious, that at school, you are not supposed to learn how to transform an unjust system into something more just. What you learn how to do is you learn how to absorb yourself into that unjust system, but you learn the language of guilt. You learn the language of regret. In other words, you learn how to process your complicity in the system by expressing an understanding of the inherent injustice of that system. In other words, they teach you to bear witness to the horrors that this system produces, while at the same time giving you that piece of paper that gives you an inside track to success within the system. And part of why you're seeing the rise of candidates like Mamdani in New York City is because more and more of those people are figuring out that that piece of paper that they paid so much to get is really not worth all that much anymore. And that is radicalizing some of these people. And the events of the Gaza genocide radicalized a lot of people before they got that piece of paper in a way that their professors were not prepared to deal with. It was really a pants down moment. And now these universities are just being exposed for what they are, which I have to say is great to see as someone who saw this the second I stepped foot on a college campus, that this is all a bunch of bullshit. And it is, and it's being exposed for that right now, to the point where a professor makes a very milquetoast statement about the virtue of protest and puts it in the context of a legacy of protest at the university, a legacy of social justice mindedness at the university. And the backlash is such that the president has to apologize for it. Pretty pathetic. Really pathetic. All right, folks, we're going to take our remaining super chats and Rumble rants, and then we are going to be gone on this stream. We got Butch Ware, gubernatorial candidate for the Green Party in California, joining us on Thursday. We also have Garland Nixon will be our co-host this Sunday. That'll be cool. We've crossed paths with Garland several times, but we've never actually had him on the show. So that'll be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. So you guys got all that to look forward to this week. Vienticus Prime says, when does a joke become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent. Ha! Good one. You should write a joke book, and we could sell your joke book on the show, Vienticus. Think about it. Andy Gardner, you're right about X. All I get is Reza Pahlavi now. Click on him one too many times there. Eric Rousseau, Keaton Electric Razor GoFundMe. Ha! Go big and get deluxe that can shave balls as well. You can shave balls with any. All you need is a blade to shave balls. I don't think you need a special one to shave balls. But they do have ones where, like, you know, they advertise. Like, there was one that said, like, the one I got has, like, 21 modes, which already seems daunting. It already seems like too much. But they also have, like, they also have ones there for, like, they have ones for there for, like, $150. Like, 72 modes. What are you, 72 modes? It's a razor. It's a blade that plugs in. You can do a lot with one mode. How do you use 72 modes for a razor? That seems impossible. I don't know. Maybe a rabbi needs 72 modes. I don't need 72 modes. I'm good. I have 3 or 4 modes, and I'm good. That's all I need. I don't need more modes than that. Hey, Jew boy, why don't you get a pet hair razor? They are cheaper, and you can shave your dog and cat. Also, you can use it as a spare when you go on holiday, or wait, forget that. Ha ha. Furrow Squeen. Funny. Furrow Squeen the troll. Forget that last bit. Sorry for Jew boy. No, that's okay. It's all right. I didn't know the pet razor, they have like electric pet razors. That's interesting. I didn't even know that. Furrows Queen, that last rant was a total joke. So we are all aware. Of course, we all know. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Of course. We all got a good sense of humor here. Michael Castillo, thanks for gifting 5 Due Dissidents memberships. It's very kind of you, my friend. Appreciate that very much. Vienticus Prime says something unfortunately accurate in saying that instead of getting a degree, the young person gets sent a PDF file. Yeah, I thought of that right as I was saying it there, my friend. Thank you for that, Vienticus. Appreciate it very much. All right, folks, that's our show. Appreciate you all very much for being here. That was a good one. Like that show a lot. thought we nailed it, if we must say so ourselves. So please smash that subscribe button. Please smash that like button on the way out to give this as big an algo boost as you can. And we are coming down the home stretch of Russ's trip. We will have Russ back next week. So plenty of great stuff between now and then for your viewing and listening pleasure. Thank you very much to our special guests, Kit Cabello and Kshama Sawant. Thank you to the YouTubers. Thank you to the Rumblers. Thank you to our mods for keeping the peace in the chat. We will see you back here Thursday, noon Eastern, with special guest Butch Ware. Until then, thanks very much for spending the afternoon with us. Appreciate you all. As always, be safe and be well. Courage.
Please clap.